There's something different about rivalry games and rivalry matchups, and we have one here today. The Moose Jaw Miller Express, the Medicine Hat Mavericks, a rivalry built on their playoff battles in the past, but it doesn't matter who is in each uniform. There's still that hatred on each side for each other, and it makes these games so much closer, and we have seen that throughout the course of this year between these two. Very tightly knit. Each team has picked up a couple of wins off of the other. The Miller Express leading in the head-to-head so far this year. They got 3 wins to the Mavericks, 2. The Mavs will look to even the season series tonight. And there's still obviously a battle going on in the East Division. The Mavericks red hot coming into this game, winning 3 straight. The Miller Express have put 2 of their own together, and they do have quite the lead on Medicine Hat, but you never know. These head-to-head matchups are important, and if Medicine Hat can win them the rest of the way through, maybe they put up a run for that second spot in the Eastern Division, which the Miller Express currently occupy. We've got it all for you here at Athletic Park on Flow Sports. My name is Truman Bartman. It's fun to be back with you. Last time we saw you was on Saturday here when the Mavericks began their winning streak against the Weyburn Beavers. They would go down to Weyburn Stadium at Tom Lang Park and take 2 more games off the Beavers, in which was a makeshift 3-game series. There was an off day in there as well. But the Miller Express, a much different opponent. They're a team that scores a high volume of runs. They always have good starting pitching. And although it won't be their ace, Weston Walls, on the mound tonight, there will be 2 guys, one for each team, that we have not seen very much of so far this year. And that can create even more confusion when you don't know what you are dealing with. So we will get you all set for today's action between these 2 bitter rivals. In just a few, we'll run you through our starting lineups, who we have on each side of the ball, and then get you to, of course, our great game. And that will be taking place here in Medicine Hat as the Mavericks. They got a lot of games coming up, and it all begins here with the Miller Express, the first team that they look to get through. We'll be right back here on Flow Sports. What's the layout look like for the Mavericks tonight? Let's take a peek. Presented by Fortis Alberta. Tonight's starting lineups and a familiar look for the Mavs, but a new name jammed in the middle of their lineup, and we'll get to him in a second. If you are unaware of who Nick Hill is, there's lots to talk about with him tonight, but let's get to what we know. Evan Morrison and Blake Dale, they batted in the 1 and 2 spots for most of the year, and they've been pretty good as of late. We saw that against the Beavers. Frankie Giacalone, maybe the hottest hitter in the WCBL, will bat in the 3 spot again tonight. He had a home run against Weyburn in last game. He now leads the Mavericks with 9. Carter Roth named an all-star today. Of course, we'll talk about all the all-star ads throughout this game on both sides. He'll be playing over at second base tonight, so a bit of a switch up defensively for a guy who has played lots of second throughout his career. Eric Calder will be DHing, Johnny Volcano over at shortstop. Nick Hill will be playing third, so Roth's usual position becomes Nick Hill's, and at university when he played for Mid-America Christian, that's where he was stationed for the most part. Another MAC U guy in Jaziel Grudelars will catch tonight, and Adam Volcano. He's been stable out in right field over the last couple of games, and he returns there tonight. So 2 Volcanos in the lineup, a bunch of MACU guys, and several familiar faces. And speaking of familiarity, I don't think I've ever called a Miller Express game in the past 4 years where Thomas Soto has not been the leadoff guy. He gets that role again tonight for the Miller Express. William Edwards will play over in right field. Chris Franks in center field. One of the best outfields in the entire WCBL belongs to the Miller Express, and it's because of the production from those two. Eddie Saenz, who wasn't with the Miller Express to begin the year, has come in late. He left early last year. He's a great power bat, and he fills in the cleanup spot. Garen Plummer's had a really good year. He'll be over at first. Gary Swan will do the catching duties. Jimmy Kurtz will play over in left. Caden Ransom in his usual place at DH, and Ben Wallachek over at second base. Talked about the outfield being good for the Miller Express. How about their middle infield? Wallachek and Soto. It's just as good as it gets. 2 of the faster players in our league, and we'll get to watch them again here tonight. And let's see who's on the mound, for the Medicine Hat Mavericks, and it will be Danny Retzlaff. 1 relief appearance so far for Retzlaff, who just joined the Mavericks. He hasn't even been here for a week, and he already gets his first start in that 1-inning relief appearance, a 0 ERA, 2 strikeouts, 1 walk for number 32, who wore the same number last year and was named the Mavericks Rookie of the Year during his 2025 season with Medicine Hat. He was a starter during that time. He was really good during that time. Let's see if it carries over to a new year for Retzlaff. So as the starting lineups get announced down at field level, and we've obviously previewed the game for you here today, we will toss it down below and, of course, get our national anthem. Only one tonight. Last game on July 4th, we got, obviously, the U.S. national anthem smudged in there, but it'll just be the Canadian one for this game as these 2 Canadian counterparts go at it. Both these teams obviously eager to keep their winning streaks alive, and they're going to have to deal with the win tonight in trying to do so. It's swirling out there. We've had a couple of calm games recently at Athletic Park, which is a rarity, but that wind, it is blowing left to right again, as kind of usual, or at least what we've seen in years past. And so that will be an adjustment or a not-so adjustment that has to be made here. And, you just never know what the wind can do. We know it holds up in center field specifically, so if you're trying to hit out that way, it might be a bit tougher. And obviously you got 2 very athletic center fielders on each side tonight. Speaking, of course, about Chris Franks and Evan Morrison, who will patrol those areas tonight, and they could have their hands full with that ball swirling around. But for Danny Retzlaff, he gets to stay stationary on the mound, and the former CSU Pueblo pitcher, he looked good in his first go. He's kept everything the same style, the same delivery, and speaking of style, the same glove. Retzlaff loves that red leather, and he says that, there's some people that may not be a fan of it, some coaches that tell him to take it off, but he likes to show off his style. He likes to show off his uniqueness, and that Retzlaff is a character guy, a guy that the Mavericks staff raved about getting back, not only because of what he can do on the mound, but the presence that he brings in the locker room, the excitement that he brings, and he is his own guy. He walks to the beat, or the walks to, I guess the beat of his own drum, thumps to the beat of his own drum is the correct saying. And you need guys like that in your locker room. And the Mavs, they've gone on quite the tear since Retzlaff arrived, so there's got to be a correlation between the two. Undefeated since he's rejoined Medicine Hat, and his numbers last year were pretty good. The ERA a little bit higher in the 5s, but he's a guy who throws strikes. He's a guy who can fill up the zone, and that's the name of the game in the WCBL. And the Mavs have 3 lefties that have been able to do that, 2 prior to Retzlaff's arrival, in Beck Button, who's had limited action, and Cody Myers, who had a no-hit bid going through 5 innings in Weyburn. So we'll see if the lefty magic keeps up for Medicine Hat. They've been in love with their lefties so far this year with the few that they have as a part of their pitching crew. And this is the time of the year when we really figure out what the pitching crew is going to look like going forward for both sides. Of course, guys leave and guys come in. People always looking to make additions because pitching is the one thing that no team seems to have answered so far this year. And despite some of the big names on both these teams, pitching-wise, when you get into the bullpen and you get into later games and later innings and you have to use a lot of arms, there's some question marks at times, and both teams looking to answer those question marks. And speaking of something that could be confusing, what way is Thomas Soto going to bat? We've seen him on both sides before. He chooses the left-hand side tonight. He batted right last time, or batted on the right side as a lefty when he was here last. First one's going to be flared out over into right field. A long way to go for Adam Volcano, and that will fall foul for the now 3-time All-Star in Thomas Soto. 2024, 2025, and now 2026. Soto has been named to the big game. He is one of very few, one of 3 to be exact, who have made 3 All-Star appearances amongst all current players in the WCBL. Soto rips this one down to third, and it's off the glove of the newly acquired Nick Hill. And it's a base hit for Thomas Soto. Not a lot has changed with Soto throughout the years. Of course, he's gotten better, but it's the same loose approach at the plate, a contact guy. He hits the ball hard, and he loves to rip the ball down the lines, obviously depending on where he slots in the batter's box. And a bit of a change this season for William Edwards. Got to bat with some security last year in Austin Gurney. It was a tough start to the year for Edwards, but he has surged up statistically in this second half of the first half, and he's right back to being the RBI guy that we knew and loved last year. First pitch from Retzlaff is going to be low for ball 1. And Edwards, another guy who's going to back-to-back All-Star games alongside Soto, he makes his second consecutive All-Star team. Retzlaff. A check over to Soto at first, who's known to steal bases. He's led the league in stolen bases before. 1-1 look here to William Edwards. Retzlaff has a perfect look at Soto being a lefty here. It's going to be a ground ball towards Johnny Volcano. A long play as he ranges over, and a good job by Frankie Giacalone to grab that ball. He couldn't stay on the bag to make the play, but if that gets past, Soto could be all the way on his way home with the speed that he possesses. So 2 on now for the Miller Express. It's been a good first inning against Retzlaff, who's still trying to get his feet under him here. And he will see his 3rd consecutive 2026 All-Star. It's Chris Franks, the last of the hitting All-Stars for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. Franks in his rookie season in the WCBL, and he has put up great numbers. A batting average above 300, and he's your do-it-all outfielder. Retzlaff, the first offering, a bunt slayed down, turning to first, falling over is Giacalone, and the ball's going to fall out of the hand of Carter Roth. Roth back to third, Soto trying to get there, and they get him out. Oh, madness here in the first inning as Nick Hill with the tag to Thomas Soto. Not a tough guy or a hard guy to tag out. And not often do you see Soto go out when he's on the run, but Nick Hill adjusting on the fly. Good play from Carter Roth on the other side. And now it's the same look for the Miller Express with 2 on here, except they'll bring to the plate Eduardo Sainz. Eduardo Sainz, good buddies with Thomas Soto, both Texas natives and roommates last year in Moose Jaw. And the Millers get both back this year. Retzlaff, a look towards Will Edwards. He'll creep ahead, and Grudelars was off balance, but he made the catch. 3 hits already for the Moose Jaw Miller Express, and we've only seen 3 batters come up prior to Eduardo Sainz. Retzlaff, the head shake. He's ready to go against Eduardo Sainz. Retzlaff paints a strike, and no challenge there from Sainz. Waiting behind him on deck is Garen Plummer, and then Gary Swan, who's catching tonight, will follow. Garen Plummer does a bit of catching as well, who's on deck, but over at first base tonight. Retzlaff working with a new catcher. It's the first time he's worked in-game with Jaziel Grudelars. And here's Sainz drifting over towards right field. Playing in was Adam Volcano, and it's up over his head. This should score a run for sure as Edwards is around third. He'll come in to score. Franks is moving in. Grudelars the tag, and the ball got away. We'll see what the call is here. I believe they're going to call him safe. I didn't see any reaction from the home plate umpire. And so it'll be a 2-0 Moose Jaw Miller Express lead here in the first. And it is a 2 RBI double for Eduardo Sainz. It was an awfully close play, but I think the home plate umpire said that Grudelars never secured the ball. He did have a foot slide into his glove, but if you don't have the ball in the first place, you obviously can't get an out. So just 1 out here is giving up 4 hits and 2 runs in the first inning is Danny Retzlaff. Now to the plate comes up Garen Plummer with a runner in scoring position. Plummer will foul that one off. Back over towards the Medicine Hat Mavericks dugout. The Mavs are hoping from a long start here from Retzlaff. It's not that their bullpen's depleted at all, but at the same time, in a game like this where you play the Miller Express, you want to have your starter go long because they will chase pitchers quickly when they get into your bullpen. Retzlaff on the 0-1, and Grudelars quickly getting in position. Moving off the runner over at second base and Sainz. Retzlaff looks at Sainz, now looks at the plate, and he'll miss outside, and he's behind in this count as well, 2-1. Not a lot to swing at so far here for Garen Plummer. Plummer, of course, played at Tabor College, and then in his final collegiate season went to FDU. That's where he spent his 2026. Retzlaff on the way, and the pitch is high for ball 3. FDU believe that was the school's saying back during the March Madness tournament a couple years ago when they knocked off the 1-seeded Purdue, who was a powerhouse at the time, and it's only the second time ever that a 16-seeded school had beaten a 1 school, that of course in basketball. Pitch to Plummer, and Grudelars wanted to know if he went or not. It didn't matter. He's off to first base, and it will send up to the plate Gary Swan with 2 on. Swan's played here once this year, and Andrew Bench is going to go out and talk to Danny Retzlaff, who's had a not so impressive start to the day here, and I think he would tell you that himself. So I don't think this will be too long of a mound meeting. We haven't seen a ton of mound meetings called from Andrew Bench this year. He's kept it pretty calm in that department. He wants to allow his pitchers to figure it out and see what's going to work and what's not. But there's some trouble brewing here in the first inning and what's been a slow top of the first as well. Now the home plate umpire will come out, and looks like he's going to break things out. Send Andrew Bench on his way, and Grudelar's back to the plate. He'll set up for Swan. Chance to get more runs here in the first for the Miller Express. You don't want to feel like you're out of it right away. Still lots of game to be played. If you're going to go down big, it's probably best to do it in one of the first 3 innings of the game. Retzlaff working with 2 runners on. First pitch to Swan is going to be high for a ball, and I believe that's now 3 consecutive pitches that end up being a ball for Retzlaff. Second pitch for Retzlaff is also high. It's 2 in a row that don't connect. Moose Jaw, they're a high run producing team. 244 runs scored so far this year, and they've given up their fair share as well, but they're certainly not in terms of the teams who have given up the most runs. They're not in that department. They're more so middle of the pack. Retzlaff, that's a strike as he goes low corner here on Gary Swan. 2-1 count. Probably a spot where Swan's going to want to swing. Retzlaff on the way. Swan will foul that one back to the netting. Moose Jaw 6-4 in their last 10 games. The Mavericks the exact same. Of course, Medicina's winning streak a little bit longer. And talked to Coach Ryan Reed before the game, and he says, you know, you want this one as well. And of course, they want every game, but you think about it, a chance to beat a good team like Moose Jaw, Weyburn, a below 500 team. If you beat a team above 500 to add to your streak, that's something that can boost your group even more than just a regular win. This one popped up over towards Frankie Giacalone. Looks like he's got an eye on it, and now a glove to go with it. That'll be out number 2 here in the top of the first. Moose Jaw's no joke. They came into the year being hailed as one of the contenders, especially in the East Division. Medicine Hat was a part of that conversation early on before the season had actually got going. But all year it has been Moose Jaw and it has been Saskatoon atop the East Division. And even as Medicine Hat's climbed back, not a lot has changed between the top 2. Here's Jimmy Kurtz. He's batted higher in the lineup throughout this year, but he's near the bottom in this game. First offering from Retzlaff, and that will be a strike. A tough matchup here for Kurtz as this lefty-lefty battle doesn't really work in his favor. Retzlaff. A longer look over to second here. Freezes, then deals, and Kurtz is going to line this one over the head of Roth at second base, and that'll be down for a base hit. Thinking about 2 was Kurtz. The throw is going to be into Volcano, and a run in to score. It's a 3-0 Miller Express lead here in the first inning, and that is their 5th hit of the first, and it belongs to Jimmy Kurtz. A long talk here between Retzlaff and Grudelars. And it might be a chance for the entire Moose Jaw Miller Express batting lineup to get a hit in this, or get a hit, a plate appearance in this first inning, but it feels like all of them are going to get a hit as well. We'll bring up Caden Ransom to the plate now. Retzlaff, first pitch to Ransom. That one through the gap and in for a base hit. Ransom's even thinking about 2, but he'll stop up at first. Throw all the way down to Nick Hill at third, and now it's a 4-0 Miller Express lead, and this first inning goes on and on here for Medicine Hat. They already have somebody warming up in the bullpen. It's Beck Button, so another lefty. One of the Mavs 3 is down there. And will be the last hitter in the lineup here, Ben Wallachek, who comes up for the Miller Express. Wallachek, a mainstay in their lineup over the last 2 years, a base-stealing threat, very quick, and a slap hitter at the plate. First pitch to Walzek is a strike. Runners on the corners again. The same look here for Moose Jaw, who's come out firing on all cylinders. They've had games where they've blown out the Mavs at home before, but they've also had games where they've relinquished big leads. We talked about it at the beginning of not this season, but last season, some of those games in 2024 that were just outrageous. Double-digit comeback efforts for both sides, and games where either team would have been up close to 7 or 8 runs and let things go as Wallachek all the way over into right field, and my apologies, with a single and another run. It's now 5-0, 7 hits off of Danny Retzlaff in the first. You could see Ryan Reed looking down towards the bullpen and probably hoping that things amp up there for Beck Button, who looks like he's going to get into this game and probably early. Thomas Soto, his second at-bat of the first inning here. Moose Jaw has 7 hits and 5 runs before the Mavs even pick up a bat. Retzlaff working with runners on second and first. Strike to Soto there. He wasn't pleased with the call as he tilts his head back. But there's not a lot that Soto complains about. That's because he hits just about anything, whether it's in the zone or not. He's so good with his bat-to-ball skills, and his timing is near perfection. An awkward frame there from Grudelars, but it's called a strike. No complaint this time from Soto. Soto is as popular as they get in Moose Jaw. Even as his own food now, they make a Thomas Soto hot dog at Rosswells Park. I don't know how many players have their own food item in the WCBL, but the number can't be high. Soto's in an elite club. 0-2 count to Soto. Here's the pitch, and it's going to miss. Looked inside to Soto. Soto with a single in his first at-bat down the left field line. It got past Nick Hill. And he's a guy that's just never out of a count. Even in an 0-2 situation or 1-2 rather. You don't want to throw him something too good, because he'll do that. Over towards Volcano, a diving play, looked to turn, but Soto's speed too good. A quick tag, and safe as the call over at third base. Leaning off was Jimmy Kurtz. So now you have the 2 fastest players in the WCBL on the base path, in Soto and Wallachek. And over at third is Jimmy Kurtz. Now this will bring up William Edwards for the second time with the bases loaded to Retzlaff. I'm sure when Danny Retzlaff thought about coming back and making a start here at Athletic Park, he didn't imagine that he would be down by 5 runs in the first inning and had surrendered 8 hits already. Retzlaff. Pitch is going to be low here to Edwards, who's got a good eye at the plate. So far, this is the only game of the evening that has had a recorded run in it. Usually, every game has a bit of a slower start, and you ease into it. Not for the Miller Expresses. Edwards will swing and miss. William Edwards, the league leader in doubles a season ago. He's one of those dual sport athletes. He played both baseball and soccer at Oak Hill College. Here's Retzlaff, a swing and a miss to Edwards. And I think that speaks to not only the stamina that Edwards has, but, you know, for a taller guy on this team, and there's lots of smaller players on the Miller Express, but he can move very well. He's fleet of foot. Retzlaff on the way. Edwards over towards right field. Long way to go for Volcano, who will dive and make the play. And that will conclude our top of the first. But what a way to start for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. This is what their offense does. This is what their offense has done in years past. 5 big ones in the first on 8 hits. They leave the bases loaded. But they may have just chased Danny Retzlaff early on, something that not a lot of teams did in the early goings of last season. Wow, what a start for the Miller Express. after what was a monumental top of the first inning for the Moose Jaw Miller Express, in which they put up 8 hits and 5 runs. Speaking of firsts, let's talk about the first start here for a new player just added to the Moose Jaw Miller Express roster not even a few days ago, and that is Noah Scrimger, who will get the start. The Calgary, Alberta native connects onto the mound, and if we've known anything about righties in the past who have joined the Miller Express, it's that they can find the zone, they can throw hard, and they are tall. And by the looks of it out there from Scrimger, he's got at least the tall part. We'll see if he can follow the rest of the traits that some of his, I guess, former counterparts here playing for Moose Jaw and current teammates have. Scrimger, I'm not sure if he was in Calgary prior to this, but Moose Jaw, a good place to go if you want to avoid the traffic in Calgary this time of year. The Stampede obviously going on, and a historic Stampede, one of the world-famous ones in Calgary. Had a chance to visit out there myself, and the city is alive. There's a fun atmosphere and a bump going over in Calgary that you can just feel when you walk around, and you get that sometimes when you come to a baseball game in Medicine Hat, and a solid crowd here tonight that, even with their team down, has provided a little bit of juice. And Evan Morrison, what a night he had last night. It's part of the reason why people come out to ball games, is so that they can watch a guy that had a night that like Morrison did last night. Home run in that game, a few RBIs, several hits as he pops this one up towards third base and now into the outfield. Soto's going to drop the ball. Morrison got held up, and he's back over to first base. And so it'll be 1 on here for the Mavericks. I believe this will be tallied in error, so no hits yet for Medicine Hat. But Morrison will take it any way he can get it here. And the Mavs, after giving up 5 early on, needed to get it going right away, and they do that with Morrison on first. Here's Blake Dale, a guy who's been in the league now for 3 seasons, and he finally got the call to the All-Star game today. He'll be playing in the All-Star infield, but he's playing in the outfield in today's game. He can play just about anywhere around the diamond. It has been a struggle since he was named the Player of the Week in the WCBL. The strikeout numbers have gone up, and it's kind of a mid-season slump here for Dale as he looks to get back to what he did in the first half. First pitch was a ball, and second one will be a strike to Dale, is going up high as Scrimger. It is not easy to work against a pitcher that you know nothing about. And for as much film that you can watch, and probably blurry film at that, until you play the guy, you don't know what he has. Scrimger will miss low here, and Gary Swan with the block. Swan trying to go with a coordinated color look down there. He's got the white shin pads and the white helmet, but then the black and yellow jersey, so those things don't really pair together well, but I'm no fashion expert, and as long as you can block the ball and stay safe, I guess that's all that matters. 2-1 look to Blake Dale as he pops this one backwards. Now Scrimger will even the count up at 2 apiece. Mavericks have a huge part of their order coming up with the likes of Carter Roth and Frankie Giacalone. Blake Dale hoping to reach and make this a big inning for the Mavs. Scrimger, Dale sends this one backwards as well, and almost into the same spot, kind of that food court area. You have the bar down below at Athletic Park and a couple of food trucks, and that landed dead smack in the middle of it all. 2-2 look to Dale. Morrison still over at first base. Scrimger, high pitch, and the count will run full. Moose Jaw looking for a double play here. And then look at Giacalone. You don't want to give Giacalone base runners. That is something that the Weyburn Beavers have learned over the last couple of games, and Moose Jaw hoping that they can avoid a scenario with him and guys on. Dale shoots this one over to right field, heading towards the wall and making the play. Nearly at it. Morrison has to go all the way back to first, and they're going to say that he is safe. They're going to throw back over towards second. They're telling Thomas Soto to tap on the bag, and they're going to say that he's safe. Ben Wallachek down there pleading his case. Morrison did have to get all the way back, and he did so in time. That ball was hit on a line, but it just looped over right towards the warning track, and making the play over in right field was William Edwards. Morrison will stay over at first, and They didn't rule him out, but Ben Wallachek was furious. He thought that he got it, and he was pointing towards Thomas Soto to touch the base over there to ensure that the call was going to be safe no matter what, and that ended up being the call. Here's Frankie Giacalone now with one on and one out. Scrimger. Giacalone just missed that one as he went after the first pitch. Giacalone, as I mentioned in the pregame, a home run last night, and he is a candidate for the home run derby. He's one of the most exciting players to watch in early work and BP, and when you come to games as well, there's not a dull moment with Giacalone at the plate. Scrimger. Giacalone leaning, and he'll swing and miss. Scrimger, a quick look over to Morrison, who's way over at first base. Doesn't have a long lead over there. Scrimger trying to get his feet set. And the pitch, he's going to get Giacalone swinging. So an off-speed look outside, a dipper. Scrimger with his first strikeout of the evening, and it goes to Giacalone, a guy who hasn't struck out a lot as of late. Now here comes Carter Roth. In his last home game came a triple shy of the cycle, and in his first at-bat in his last home game, he hit one off the foul pole. That's one of the few times, at least in the last 4 years, that I've seen that happen. In fact, I think it might be the only time that someone's taken one off the foul pole for a home run, at least in my memory. Scrimger. First pitch to Roth is going to miss inside. A little bit of a late break to that one, and Swan was over to receive it. Roth making his second consecutive All-Star appearance this season for the Medicine Hat Mavericks, was an All-Star in his first year in the WCBL in 2025. High pitch to Roth here, he'll take for ball 2. Mentioned all the things that make Thomas Soto great at the plate, and Roth does many of those things, and he's very similar to Soto in some ways. Maybe not the base stealing threat that Soto is, but he's also not as aggressive as Soto on the base path, so the opportunities are more limited. Low pitch to Roth here, 3 balls, no strikes to the Mavs All-Star. Roth just looking to simplify the approach. See if he takes a pitch here, and if he forces Scrimger to get back into the strike zone. Scrimger, 4-pitch walk to Roth, and that'll put 2 on for Medicine Hat, and it will bring up to the plate Eric Calder. Calder, the DH role tonight. He will slot in on that right-hand side as a left-handed bat. Calder always tying up the shoes before he goes, and this will be his first look at Scrimger. Still no hits for Medicine Hat, even with the 2 guys on. First pitch from Scrimger to Calder, and he takes that for a strike. And Calder, more animated than you'll ever see him before. In last game here at home, he got a call that he wasn't certain about, and he actually asked me about it after the game. He said, could you see what it was from up high? And for purposes of being non-biased on this broadcast, I won't tell you what my answer was, but I'm sure you can guess. A pitch just misses. It looked like it was close inside there, but Calder doesn't offer, and it's 1-1. Talked about Garen Plummer playing at Tabor College. This is a Tabor College guy here as well, and Eric Calder, but they never played together. Calder playing his first year at Tabor this year, and Plummer was there in 25. Scrimger, high leg kick, deals, and then tosses that one high for ball 2. The Mavericks making something out of this bottom of the first here, but they have to convert through with runs. You don't expect it all in one inning. A 5-run first is a sizable margin that the Miller Express have put up. Calder waits for it. And that kickback means that Scrimger's ready to go. Scrimger way outside, and a good snap of the glove there from Gary Swan to keep it ahead of himself. Shaw obviously trying to see if Scrimger is better in the starting role or maybe in a bullpen spot. That's the reason that he gets the go-ahead today here. Weston Walls went a night ago, so he wasn't going to be an option to come in. That's the ace for the Miller Express. Jacob Glazner, another high-level pitcher that we won't get to see in a starting role today. Calder, a swing and a chop, and now it's a full count to Eric Calder. One guy that won't be back this year for the Miller Express that was an all-star last year was Rudy Guardiola. And Rudy Guardiola, maybe not the guy who threw the hardest in the WCBL, but he had some trickery and he kept teams off balance. That's a bigger loss for the Miller Express. I think it was a guy who they thought they were going to have back, and he didn't end up making the trip up to Canada and joining the Miller Express. Full count here to Calder. Runner's going to go, and strike 3 called. So getting out of the inning and stranding 2 is Noah Scrimger. And some frustration there for Eric Calder and the rest of the Mavericks as they trail by 5 after 1, and they are unable to get any back here against the Miller Express, who put up a big number in the first. And we're back in a flash with Chris Franks up to the plate. First pitch here from Danny Retzlaff is a ball, and a tough first inning for Danny Retzlaff. Talked about the big numbers that he gave up, but there's a chance for redemption, and nobody warming up for the Mavericks. They're going to give Retzlaff at least this inning and probably more, a chance to prove himself on the mound for the lefty. The only reason I could tell that they haven't made the switch from Retzlaff is because that glove is still glistening right into my eyes out on the mound. Retzlaff pauses. Another high one. That has been his miss so far tonight, not getting down on the ball, and hasn't gotten to pulling through a couple of his pitches. I'm no expert in the pitching department, but just based on the location, it seems like that's kind of been his miss. Retzlaff. I was going to put that one outside. And always some frantic movements on the mound for Retzlaff, regardless of whether he's doing well or not. Lots of animated moves. And he's similar to Ben Wallachek, who plays over at second base for the Miller Express. Wallachek, rather. My apologies again. One of those guys that just unpredictable in some ways and not harmful, but has his own swagger. Full count here to Franks. All-important first out here looming for Danny Retzlaff. That would be a huge confidence boost after a top of the first. Here's one that's popped up over towards Adam Volcano in right field. Should be playable as he'll charge on and make the grab for out number 1. And that's got to feel good if you're Retzlaff. If you let the leadoff base runner get on, then you start to question yourself and get back into a space of, can I still do this? And I'm sure that's what it felt like for most of the first inning. I mean, Retzlaff's a guy who threw into the 30 pitch range in the first. And that's not something that you want out of your starter if you're the Mavericks, but a couple of quick innings that don't get to full counts, and things look a whole lot different. Retzlaff down the chute, and that is a first pitch strike. It's Eduardo Saenz, who had the 2 RBI double in his first plate appearance of the night, who is up. Retzlaff, just 1 walk in that first inning, so it was Moose Jaw doing all the damage. They were getting hits off of him and having productive at-bats. Pitch low here to Saenz, who won't offer at it. And it's that slap-hitting philosophy. I'm not sure if the Miller Express are aware that they're a slap-hitting fast team, but I think year after year, when it becomes a trend, you have to label them as such, and that's not a bad thing. That's a winning strategy that has continued to work for them. Swing and a miss as dipping down was Saenz, and that ball had some cut to it from Retzlaff. Saenz will take his time here, 1-2 situation. You can see leaning out right over the top of the mound is Retzlaff, maybe wanting to put a little pressure on Saenz. These two saw each other last year. Retzlaff on the way. Saenz sends this one over towards Adam Volcano. Should remain in the park, and it's into the glove of Volcano for out number 2. So busy work here for Volcano in this second inning, and in the first, the ball was going where the Mavericks weren't into the outfield, and even in the infield for that matter, and it's a different story here in the second. They're still making contact off of Retzlaff. Retzlaff getting it into positions where his players can make plays, and he's going to need to do a lot more of that. So with 2 down here in the second inning, Retzlaff looks to make it 3, and that won't be the case as that fired down the left field line. Garen Plummer's going to head for 2, and he should be in there easily. A quick at-bat for Garen Plummer, who throws up the Moose signal over at second base. And I find it fitting on a night that the Moose Jaw Miller Express come into town. Of course, we have the local EMS doing lots here. They're doing a teddy bear fundraiser, and I think their mascot is a moose, because I've seen this moose walking around in EMS gear down below. And what are the odds that they play a team who obviously has moose in their name? I'm not sure if this was planned by the Miller Express secretly, or if the EMS here at Medicine Hat are just Moose Jaw fans, but there's an extra fan in the crowd, it seems, tonight, at least going Moose Jaw's way, whether it's intended to or not. Retzlaff, oh, this one pounded by Gary Swan into left field. It'll be a base hit and a little bit of trouble as it gets past Blake Dale. A run comes in to score. It's now 6-0, and it's an RBI double for Gary Swan. I believe that will now make it 10 hits on the night for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. What a clinic it has been through 2 innings. You don't want to call a game after 2 innings, and trust me, I've heard many broadcasters and many players, fans alike, talk about that a game's over very early on. One of my friend's dads is notorious for doing it. But in this case, there's still lots of ball game to be played, and Danny Retzlaff isn't out away from getting out of this inning. Jimmy Kurtz will swing and miss. I would say that I've also been notorious in my past for calling games over before they do, but we're in the booth here, so got to be an optimist. When you're watching from a different landscape on your couch, you can talk however you want, but Retzlaff back towards Kurtz, and he gets a second swing there. So Kurtz is down 0-2 here. A couple of fans on the berm out there tonight. Looks like they were probably heading for a bike ride and decided to make the stop. I'd say that's one of the best seats in the house out there, even though it's technically outside of the house. 0-2 to Jimmy Kurtz. Retzlaff looking to finish it off. Gary Swan over on second. Here comes the pitch. Kurtz, a swing and a miss, and a strikeout for Danny Retzlaff. His first of the night. He gives up 1 run here in the second as the Miller Express build their lead up to 6. The Mavs still yet to get a run or a hit as we head into the bottom of the second.
Hey, baseball fans, make sure to stay up to date with your favorite teams across the league by subscribing to the WCBL YouTube channel right now. We have tons of free coverage for you over there, including daily highlights, full archived game broadcasts, daily game day previews, plus the WCBL report with myself and Joe McFarland every Wednesday. It's all in one spot, the WCBL YouTube channel. Subscribe today.
There's going to be a unique start to this bottom of the second inning here. You're going to get a guy who's played a lot of games at Athletic Park, and the fans know very, very well in Johnny Volcano, who leads off. Batting right behind him is a new face, and we'll talk about Nick Hill a little bit more in a second. We'll focus in on Volcano first. What a year it has been for Johnny Volcano. Statistically, one of his best seasons batting-wise. He might not get on base all the time, but he's a guy who's batting over 300 right now. And you see glimpses of power within his game. And even the defense has come a long ways. You know, the adjustment from going and playing college in the outfield to playing in the infield was a big one for Volcano, but he has started to get back to his old habits, and he's been really good in this back half of the first half. I talked about that with William Edwards. They're on similar trajectories. 1-1 count here as he sees Scrimger for the first time tonight. Volcano takes another strike there. He agrees with the call from the home plate umpire. It was awfully close on that outside edge, but painting the zone was Scrimger. Stepping off, I believe it was Scrimger who initiated it, so Volcano will move back as well. Scrimger pitches outside. Knowing that Volcano felt like the strike zone was pretty close along that line, maybe even favoring that outside. Scrimger tried to take advantage and throw him one way out there, hoping for a chase. Volcano rockets this one over to right field, and it's down for a base hit. So the first of the evening for the Mavs is Volcano has a single, and now it will bring up Nick Hill for the first time here as a Medicine Hat Maverick. He came into Medicine Hat yesterday, so this is a quick turnaround, but it's also a guy who had a crazy collegiate year. He hit 24 home runs at Mid-America Christian. He was their top power bat this year. And if you thought what Frankie Giacalone has done has been really impressive in terms of hitting home runs out, well, Nick Hill, he's got the chance to do that as well, and we'll see what he has for Scrimger here in his first at-bat. High pitch to Hill. With that long hair, similar to Johnny Volcano in previous years, he's shortened up the cut. But Hill, a great hitter in his batting practice today. He hit one off the path out there in dead center. Scrimger, Hill, a long swing and miss. He's been described as a guy with quick bat speed, willing to chase after anything, and he can charge into pitches. That's what makes him dangerous. I think we see that violentness from Giacalone at times. Nick Hill is very much the same. 1-1 count, Scrimger. Hill won't chase as it's outside. A good arm over at third base as well, and that has kind of shuffled the Mavericks infield in lots of ways, and it's the reason Blake Dale's playing out in left tonight, and Carter Roth's back to his natural spot at second. 2-1, Scrimger. Hits with a strike to Hill. He didn't swing. Nobody out here for Nick Hill at the plate. Scrimger on the way. Hill through the gap and into left field, and Nick Hill has his first hit as a Medicine Hat Maverick. And there's 2 on for Medicine Hat as both him and Volcano have now reached in this inning. They'll send up Jaziel Grudelaar as the Mavericks catcher. And just like Thomas Soto, Grudelar's a switch hitter. We'll see what side he goes in on here. And it looks like he's going to bat right-handed in the second inning here at Athletic Park. Scrimger with a little bit of pressure at his back now. A couple of runners on, the first bit of adversity that he's faced in this game. Grudelar's a high swing and a miss. Going up to the top shelf there was Scrimger. Just like many of the Moose Jaw Miller Express staff members, hurling the fastball there and coming down on it nicely. Scrimger now misses low. No swing from Grudelar's. Scrimger. Grudelar's leaning down to see where that pitch was at. It does hit for a strike, and he's behind 1-2. Coming into this game, Grudelar's batting .213 on the season, 4 RBIs. Nothing in the power department, as he does not yet have a home run, and only a couple of extra base hits as well for the Mavericks catcher. Grudelar's dipping down low. That one hits Swan in the chest, and he's able to keep it in front of himself. Mavs would love to get to a spot where they can turn it over to the top of the order. They're still a bit of a ways away from that. Adam Volcano's waiting on deck, and then they will reach that spot with Evan Morrison coming up in the 1 spot of the lineup. Grudelar's going to tank this one over to center, and it's going to drop for a base hit. Volcano will hold up over at third, and the Mavs have the bases loaded here in the bottom of the second inning. So Scrimger, one time pretty much through the order, looked fairly good, but the bottom half has caught up to what is going on, and that is 3 consecutive hits here now from Medicine Hat, and hits in spots that normally you could see a play made on the ball. The one out to center field there from Grudelar's was shallow enough, and it didn't hold up like Frank's projected it to. Obviously, Johnny Volcano's is a foregone conclusion, and then a hit along the ground from Nick Hill that just squeezed through the gap in between short and third. So bases loaded for Adam Volcano, who's playing some great baseball as of late. His numbers have inflated just like his brother's as he takes a high pitch for ball 1. Volcano now batting .288 on the year with 15 RBIs and 4 doubles. Volcano with a key double in the Mavs' last game at home against Weyburn. That pitch will miss outside, and without that hit, the Mavs don't win the game. They ended up winning by 2, and it was a 2 RBI double that Volcano was able to collect. 2-0 count here. Scrimger feeling it now with the bases loaded, and a guy like Volcano who's been all over the ball recently. Scrimger, Volcano holds up, takes a strike. Inside pitch just connecting for Scrimger as he gets the count to 2-1. Volcano trying to stay loose at the plate. Here's Scrimger on the way. Volcano rips this one foul as it was a higher pitch and it forced Volcano to pull it. Talked to Moose Jaw Miller Express head coach Michael Gonzalez, who's in his first year with the team today, and one of the bright young faces in this league, but also a guy who's so respectful and willing to have a conversation and chat. And he said, finally some good weather. It has been messy over in Saskatchewan, and even their last couple of games have not been ideal, and he came here to Medicine Hat and was happy to see the sun out. Volcano, a short one that's just going to roll wide, and sometimes hits like that can play well into your hand. And for Volcano, I'm sure he was hoping that that would squeeze into the infield grass. We saw Jamel Chabot have one of those a couple games ago in the opposite direction. But now the count reads 2-2 to Adam Volcano here. Bases loaded, nobody out yet. Scrimger looking for his first out of the inning, and once he gets there, it will be a big one. Volcano chops this one over the head of the third baseman and over into left field. Runner being waved around, trying to catch the outfielder off guard, and Nick Hill will slide and score. The Mavs tag 2, and it's 2 more RBIs to the total for Adam Volcano. This will not be Volcano's last year with the Mavs unless he chooses to leave, and from what we've seen from him, this is a guy who came in as really an affiliate player at one point, and in his limited at-bats, he always just shined with this confidence and this joy for playing the game. And now he's turned himself into like a real baseball player in terms of that in this league, he can stand out and make big plays like that, be an everyday guy. And Ryan Reed and his staff are riding the high that Adam Volcano is on right now. And I don't think he or they want to come down from that. And so he's a guy that's going to find himself in the lineup every day because he's figured out how to play in this league. And a hit like that in a key moment for the Mavs in which they trail gets them back to within 4 here. The Miller Express still some work to do in this inning with no outs. Evan Morrison coming up at the top of the order. Jaziel Grudelar's over at second. Adam Volcano over at first. 14 hits combined already between these two teams, and we're not even through the second. Scrimger, Morrison takes for strike 1. And I talked to Evan about an off day that he had earlier in the season, and he said, I needed it. You know, you get to a point where the body doesn't feel as good, and you feel like you need a break, and since then, he's really started to pick things up, and he's seeing the ball much better. Second strike here to Morrison. It'll be 0-2. And I credited him when I talked to him. I said, that's not an easy thing to do. All these guys want to play every day. They want to be a part of the game. They want to have the big moments. But it really takes someone who knows themselves to say, hey, I'm just not feeling it. I need a day off. And that's what Morrison did. Pitch is high from Scrimger, and it'll be a 1-2 count as Scrimger almost slipping on the mound there. Could be a dangerous place out there on the bump. It's not as big as some, and as I mentioned on prior broadcasts, it's not as high as many as you'll see around the league, but it still has its fair share of troubles. Scrimger, Morrison is rung up here looking. So the first out of the inning for the Miller Express and Scrimger, and it comes via the strikeout. Scrimger's third of the game now, and he will see Blake Dale, who's 0 for 1 tonight. Dale with a really good piece of hitting as he lumbered it over into right field in his last plate appearance, all the way back near the warning track, and William Edwards made the play on a ball that looked like it was destined to be an extra base hit. If he can stick to that approach, the signs are pointing in the right direction for Dale. First pitch to Dale, and a good block from Gary Swan. You know, the numbers may not have been there all year long for Gary Swan, but he is a great defensive catcher, can move really well. He's shifty and alert at all times. The 1-0 here to Dale. Scrimger on the way. Dale a swing and a miss, and it's that high pitch that has seemed to have bothered him lately. When he's on time with it, he's so dangerous. Scrimger looking for his footing on the mound. High pitch to Dale. He won't challenge this time. There's some pitches that are too high. You want to work the upper half of the zone against Dale right now. At least that's kind of what he showed, but that one's way too high from Scrimger on the mound, and Dale will take. Scrimger, a really long look out to Grudelar's. And Dale is going to foul this one off. I'm not sure if it hit him. He's going to go for a bit of a walk here. It's routine to see Blake Dale go for a walk, but I think that one did catch him as he shrugs off the leg. So it'll be 2-2, and Dale returns to the batter's box. 6 home runs so far this year for Blake Dale. 35 RBIs to go with it. That's a team high. comes the pitch. Dale just under it, and you got to feel like he was close to timing that one up and shooting it the other way. Scrimger just placing it in the right spot to generate the swing, but couldn't generate a second out for his team, so we'll go back here to a look at 2-2. Jaziel Grudelar stretching over at second base, it looked like. Scrimger, a long, lengthy look, and another good block from Gary Swan. There's some nights that are harder than others behind the plate, where you're kept moving around, and you almost have to play goalie back there. And goalies and catchers, I'm sure they could switch off and play each other's positions. What Gary Swan has done so far has been really impressive. It just always seems to be in the right spot and ahead of time. Blake Dale, another one that's fouled off. He's making it challenging on the mound here for Scrimger. And as these counts get later and later and later, it works in the favor of the hitter. We've seen that a lot of times. You get into an 8-pitch or 9-pitch at bat, you're not very often going to see a strikeout because the hitter has seen everything that the pitcher is about to offer. Scrimger on the delivery. Dale, another one that is shielded out foul. The Miller Express coming off of a big game against the Regina Red Sox in which they were able to come away with a victory, and that helps out the Mavericks as well, who have the Red Sox trailing them in the standings and now that margin much wider. But it was also the Trans-Canada Clash, which is a yearly series now between the Miller Express and Regina Red Sox, and for the second year in a row, that trophy now going home, or staying at home rather, with the Miller Express. Scrimger. Pitch is going to bounce in the dirt, and it's a walk to Blake Dale and an earned walk. Talk about all the pitches that he was able to deflect aside and stay around in the at-bat, and now the bases are loaded for Frankie Giacalone. Fans giving a cheer here for Giacalone because they know what he's all about. And one thing they may not know about Giacalone is his love for Olivia Dean, recent artist that's came onto the scene and risen up the charts just like he has done in the baseball charts in the WCBL, and she's making hit after hit, and he was happy to hear it in warm-up a couple days ago. That pitch will miss for ball one. There's so many unique music tastes around the league. You hear about songs you've never heard of before, and often that comes out when you hear a walk-up. Giacalone does not walk up to Olivia Dean, but I'm sure if he goes into a slump at some point that maybe Olivia Dean would be his next option, but he's cruising right now with the current walk-up song that he's using. Another low pitch to Giacalone. It'll be 2-0. Struck out in his first at-bat of the night. Scrimger into a wide stance on the mound, looking to find a strike here against Giacalone. Giacalone rips this one into left field, and it's down for a base hit. Jaziel Grudelars will come in to score. Maybe a second run for the Mavs, and the speed of Adam Volcano works well. A 2 RBI single for the league's hottest hitter in Frankie Giacalone, and the Mavs now make it a 6-4 ball game. They still got 2 on, and they still got 2 outs to play with in this inning. There's been a long one here for Noah Scrimger, and now there's some activity in the Miller Express bullpen. If we could have Medicine Hat versus Moose Jaw every single game, wouldn't we? Like, these two teams just seem to play better when they play with each other. It's like when you're working out with somebody who's lifting higher weights. You're almost motivated to lift the weights that they are, and you reach that point, it almost seems quicker. Both these two, they're heavyweights, and they punch hard, and we're getting punches from both sides right now. This has been a fun one through 2. First pitch here to Carter Roth is going to be a strike. He walked on 4 pitches against Scrimger in their first meeting. Giacalone over at first base. Blake Dale over near second. Roth. That's 2 pitches in a row that are at the top of the zone, and Roth knows what he's like, what he likes, and he's not picky because he can hit a lot, but he's very patient. Scrimger on the way. Roth had twitched there, but he didn't generate a swing. Swan with the block. Roth a chance to take a breath here. And the Mavs. It felt like Moose Jaw had lots of breathing room, but Medicine Hat has clawed their way back here early. Roth into center field. That's down for a base hit. Ryan Reed going to wave Blake Dale around. He's coming into the plate, taking a long route. And the throw never got to Gary Swan. It's 6-5 here in the bottom of the second. Blake Dale. He doesn't get to show off the speed as often as maybe he should. That time he did, barreling around third base. Ryan Reed was sending him the whole way, and a smart send from Reed, who loves being over at third base, and he loves to see his stars perform to their potential. Blake Dale doing all of that in this inning with the excellent walk on several pitches, and then he turns it on and gets through, and this is a one-run ball game here. Scrimger now to face Calder with just one out. Calder ropes this one over to right field, a long way back, could be playable. It is for Edwards, and Giacalone will tag, head off for third base, and he's in. Fans got up after that hit from Calder, who pounced on the first pitch. And sometimes that wind will help you, but if you hit it the wrong way into the wind, it'll knock it down a bit. A great piece of hitting from Calder, a great play positionally from William Edwards, and maybe a little bit of an assist by the wind, at least in the distance department. So Johnny Volcano, 2 at-bats in 1 inning. We saw that with Thomas Soto. Now we get that with Volcano. The veterans getting a healthy helping here early on. First pitch to Volcano. Takes for a strike. Volcano. If you can think back to the beginning of this inning, because it's been quite a while, he did single in his first plate appearance. Scrimger. Low pitch, Swan right up into throwing position. Even if Medicine Hat is unable to score Giacalone from third or get any more runs in this inning, they can at least be satisfied with a 5-piece here and nearly matching the total of the Miller Express, which seemed like a large hill to climb. Runner going to go to second. Roth, he's there in time. No throw from Swan. So now 2 in scoring position, and even better look to take the lead here for Medicine Hat. Volcano looking for the hit to do just that. Volcano, 2-1 here. Scrimger. Pitch on the way, and it's outside, lunging out with Swan. Mavericks, you can tell they're eager to get those base runners across. Just even judging by the body language from Giacalone over at third, he's ready to run and hoping for an opportunity. Scrimger. That one fouled backwards by Johnny Volcano, just under it. There's been a couple close calls on both sides today, where guys have been hunting down the pitch that they want, and they just get under it or just get over top of it, and it ends up into the netting at the back. Full count here to Johnny Volcano, 2 out, 2 in scoring position. Mavs looking to tie here in a 1-run game. Scrimger, and it is a walk to Volcano, who will shake his head towards the dugout and pass the baton over to Nick Hill. Hill already made his impression in this game with a single in his first ever at-bat in the WCBL, and he might have to wait a little bit longer for his second as Michael Gonzalez out to talk to Scrimger. And it looks like the Moose Jaw Miller Express in the second inning, in a game they led by 6, will have to go to their bullpen. A shortened day for Noah Scrimger in his WCBL debut, unable to get through 2. We'll be back here with a new guy on the mound in a pressure-filled situation. The Mavs looking to break through and tie or take the lead.
The live sports experience is changing.
teams and facilities are under pressure to provide online and in-venue entertainment, IKS Live has the right team to deliver. We provide service across North America and produce the best fan experience, in the seats or streaming to you. IKS Live continues to bring you the best seat in the house.
Have you ever wondered if there's one thing that connects people from across our province? Something that connects the coffee shop to the spray park, or the brewery to the rodeo, the campground to the sports field. It's pretty amazing when you think about how it's all connected, because it truly is, and it's all we think about, so you don't have to.
It's already been a strong introduction for Nick Hill, but he's in a big spot here. His teammates are really going to love him. He doesn't know a lot of them very well, and I asked a couple of guys at the dugout today, what do you know about Nick Hill? And they say, we just came in last night. We actually haven't even hardly met him, but they can learn a lot about him here if he can pull through with the bases loaded. And a new pitcher on the mound in Rowan Robinson for the Miller Express as he gets the count to 1-1. Robinson coming in relief for Noah Scrimger. A tough debut for Scrimger, as we mentioned before, and he's left a lot still on for Robinson to work around as Hill will swing and miss. Final line for Scrimger, 1 and 2 innings pitched, 6 hits, 5 runs, all earned, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, 70 pitches thrown. Robinson. High pitch here. Couldn't get it down. Runners will move back towards their bases, and Hill holds off. Second Calgary native in a row that we've seen on the mound for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. So in this theme of celebrating Calgary recently, we get to celebrate it here on the mound. And, you know, I lived there half the year, so, you know, there's lots of great things about Calgary. Love to talk about it. Here's Hill, and he hammers this one foul a mile down the road, and got all of that, but direction was a bit off. Of course, lots to talk about with these two great communities as well in terms of Moose Jaw and Medicine Hat. You've heard a lot about Medicine Hat over the years, probably just tuning into this broadcast, but Moose Jaw, very, very unique little community and also tight-knit, similar to Weyburn. Here's Hill, pulls another one foul, and will redo things at 2-2. Roswell's Park, not a very big place, but it gets rowdy. The locals in Moose Jaw, they go out and they celebrate. They're always wearing yellow, cheering for their Miller Express team. You might be wondering, what does the name Miller Express have to do with anything? It does actually have to do with the locomotives that were once over in the Moose Jaw region. Here's the 2-2 to Hill. And he gets caught looking. So surviving the bases loaded threat is Rowan Robinson. What a start to his day. And the Mavs get 5 back and they trail by 1, but they're unable to come even here with Moose Jaw, who still carry a lead into the third.
For more than 40 years, we've been there, helping Canadians find the extra space they need to grow and to create new memories. Sentinel Storage. Buy Canadian, store Canadian.
and your strongest advocates. With locations across the prairies, we're everywhere you are. Stringham, your local lawyers.
Caden Ransom batting in the 8th spot for the Miller Express tonight. He'll lead off this inning against Danny Retzlaff on the mound. Danny, I think we weren't sure at one point if he would get into the 3rd, but he's strung things together. He's locked things down, had a much better top of the 2nd inning, and really found his stride in that inning despite giving up the 1 run. As he sends a strike in the way of Caden Ransom. Multi-sport athlete is Danny Retzlaff, a former football player. Baseball has always been his main sport. Enjoys basketball as well. Retzlaff kicks, deals, and this one's sent hard out towards Volcano. Oh, a great play off the bounce, and it's sent to first for out 1 in the top of the 3rd. That's a challenging play made there by Johnny Volcano. You never know how that ball is going to bounce, and it was glove height with Volcano bending down. He made a great play, and it's not as easy as it looks. Now it's the last hitter in the order, and Ben Wallachek. Wallachek with a hit in his first at-bat. He was fired up. There was also an RBI tag to that as well. Part of that massive first inning for the Miller Express. Pitch awfully close to Wallachek as he gets out of the way. Retzlaff. Another high one to Wallachek. It'll be 2-0. Retzlaff, several head shakes here, and now he lands on something that he likes. And Wallachek not willing to challenge at anything, and that's what makes him good, is he's patient at the plate, and he's not going to blow you away with power, and that's the reason for some guys in the lineup like Chris Franks, of course, who can rip the ball. Even Jimmy Kurtz has power in that bet. Eddie Signs. But there's a great balance here for the Miller Express, and it's a part of the danger that they have. Wallachek, an extra look and maybe an extra word for the home plate umpire. He's always very vocal down there and talked about the animation that he brings. So this matchup is going to have a lot of moving parts between him and Retzlaff. Strike called there. Wallachek won't disagree this time. He knew that one was placed well. Wallachek, a guy that you want on your team, maybe don't want to play against because he does so many things well, and because he brings that spirit to the game, it can sometimes rub other teams the wrong way. Wallachek up into the air. Carter Roth all the way over from second base to make the play for out number 2, and Wallachek with a frustrated grab of his gloves as he walks towards the dugout. Top of the order for the Miller Express will be Thomas Soto, and I spoke to Michael Gonzalez previously about the combination of Wallachek and Soto, and I said it's got to be intentional that you do that, you have Wallachek at the bottom and Soto at the top, and he's like, exactly. If we can get that speed in the pocket and balance out the lineup, it's obviously really important. No swing from Soto on the pitch from Retzlaff, who shakes his head. There's a lot of head shaking when facing Thomas Soto because there's not a lot you can do right against him. Soto, no swing there as well. There's a reason he's a 3-time All-Star, and the bunt competition is this year. Soto's known for more than bunting, but he would be my first selection of anybody in the league to get into that competition because he's so sound at the plate, and because he sees the ball well, I think he would be a guy that a lot of fans would enjoy watching in a competition like that. Soto grounds over to Volcano. He'll vacuum that up with the glove. A 1-2-3 inning for Danny Retzlaff, who gives off a fist pump as he exits off the mound. And we could still see one more from Danny here. It's his first clean inning of the night. We're not even through the third yet. We've got a long game so far here at Athletic Park and a long ways to go as the Mavs will swing the bats for the third time in this game.
Whether it's on the ice or on our app, always play for the fun of the game. Gamble responsibly with Play Alberta.
July, the Okotoks Dogs and Baseball Canada will host the Road to Okotoks and the Morneau Cup National Championship at the Siemens Stadium Complex from July 14th to 19th. Come watch the top 16 youth baseball teams from across the country. These are the future stars of Canadian baseball, tomorrow's collegiate standouts and professional players, all chasing a national championship. Don't miss a week of elite competition, unforgettable moments, and the future of Canadian baseball in Okotoks.
Jazeel Grudelars with a single in his last at-bat. He's up here in back-to-back innings at the plate, and he gets hit on the first pitch offered by Rowan Robinson, and a rude awakening here for Grudelars, who's down to first base. The Mavs have back-to-back innings with a runner getting on. This one a little more painful than the last, at least for Grudelars himself. If you were to ask the baseball in the last, which was more painful, I think it would answer the hit from Johnny Volcano. Adam Volcano. He came up in a big spot, came around to score last time he was in, and that was in the second, of course. Now he gets to work with Grudelars on first and nobody out. Robinson, low pitch here. Volcano adopting a bit of what his brother has done over the years. There was a small head shake to the side there by Adam Volcano. I'll look back over to first base. Grudelars with a healthier lead than most. Volcano tugs this one over to left field. It's got some good height, and it's gone! Adam Volcano, the Mavs take their first lead of the game. It is 7-6. It wasn't hit very high, but it was destroyed, and Adam Volcano, who is in the hottest stretch of his WCBL career, comes in again, and he cashes in with a 2-run home run. Wow. I think I've said this about 10 times, but what a game this has been. Can we have more, please? Fortunately, we do have a lot more innings to still play, and Evan Morrison will come up to bat with nobody out, so the Mavs can work from the top down here in the third and already have the lead back. 7 hits on the night for Medicine Hat. That's lower than most totals we've seen from them, but in terms of through 3 innings, that's quite a high total for any team. High pitch to Morrison from Robinson, and it'll be ball number 1. Morrison, ground ball, might get through. What a play by Wallachek, sliding over and delivering it to first base. There's nothing that Ben Wallachek can't do defensively. So speedy, and he got the feet moving right away. It allowed him to glide right over to that, and that's going to make anybody's job easy, especially a first baseman. And in this case, Garen Plummer not having to do a whole lot. He just had to be on the receiving end and obviously trust that Wallachek was going to put it there. So one down here in the bottom of the third. Some of that damage has already been done, though, by the Mavericks with the home run from Adam Volcano. Now it's 0-1 to Blake Dale as he sees Rowan Robinson. Dale grounds over towards third. Should be playable as it goes across the diamond, and play is made by Eduardo Saenz. Saenz is a guy who's played at Athletic Park. He understands the sun in the distance, and a lower throw that time around, probably just to shield Plummer from that sun over at first. So with 2 outs, it's Frankie Giacalone who will head up to the plate. Giacalone around to score his last time up. Robinson, nobody warming up behind him. Nobody warming up in either bullpen right now. I think both sides trying to preserve some arms for later on. Mentioned with the Mavericks, you don't want to use too many. You don't want to have to take out Retzlaff in the first, and they've gotten much more out of him than they probably assumed. And the same can be said here for the Miller Express. You don't want to have to get to a third pitcher already. Swing and a miss as heading down low is Robinson, and a lower swing from Giacalone. Oh, 2 to Frankie Giacalone with 2 outs in this inning. Robinson deals. Giacalone just fouls that off, and it's been the outside off-speed pitch that has had Giacalone early on here. He's shown in the past, though, even when he is chasing that pitch, that he can routinely foul it off and then give himself a chance to get what he wants. He's got a long ride till he arrives at that point within this count, as it's at 0-2. Pitch is outside. No chase this time from Giacalone, who's patient. It's been the theme of the Mavs season, is that word right there. It didn't happen all off the bat. They were waiting for some players to arrive, and then once they did arrive, it still took some time, but now things are starting to come together, and just like this game, they've got the lead even though it took a little bit. Giacalone fouls this one off. A good catch by Ryan Reed, who will toss that into the dugout. Looked like his old playing days out there, former second baseman, and made that look routine. Not even a shake of the hand down there. You think that would sting a little bit coming off of the bat of Frankie Giacalone, especially with how hard he swings and how much power he can exert. Back to the 1-2 look here between Robinson and Giacalone. Robinson. Giacalone will squat down and take that for ball 2. Robinson. Talk about pitchers who move fast. He's been into position right away. He doesn't like to waste time. Robinson. Giacalone, a ground ball that's fouled towards Ryan Reed again. Not a high leg kick. We see some exotic movements on the mound, flailing arms and high legs, but it is a subtleness that Robinson provides. A lower leg kick. He's almost standing straight up when he throws the ball towards home plate. And I'm not sure if that plays into a hitter's favor. I guess it just depends on what you like to look at. Most pitchers are watching the ball anyways once it gets out of the pitcher's hand. They're not paying attention to the wacky movements that happen after. Robinson, strong head shake here. He's confident in what Swan has given him. Here comes the pitch. Giacalone not going to bite as it was way ahead and in the dirt. There's a spot where you can risk with a pitch like that. There's nobody on, and you'll fill it up to a full count. Good for Giacalone to take. You know he's wanting to lean into something, and that would have been a far lean, so holding off is Giacalone. It'll be a full look here between him and Robinson. Robinson, Giacalone, a swing and a miss, and a strikeout here for Rowan Robinson. That's how he's ended the last 2 innings Two big spots and a bigger moment for the Mavericks. A 2-run home run from Adam Volcano. And for the first time in this game, the Mavericks have a 1-run lead through 3 here at home. And while we're in the fourth, why not take a look at some of the other scores going on around the WCBL today? It's a packed night full of games, including the one we have here. First one being played over in Swift Current between the Beavers and the 57s. 57s weren't in the playoff picture for very much of the year, but they've somehow gotten back into it now, battling for that fourth spot. It's 2-2 there in the bottom of the fourth inning with the Swift Current 57s, putting something together. They got two guys on right now, the Okotoks Dogs and the Saskatoon Berries. Maybe a preview of what could be the finals matchup this year. And Okotoks winning handily right now, 6-1 in that game. Fort Mac, another big lead for them as well, similar to the Dogs, 7-0 in the bottom of the top of the third rather, against Energy City. And then Lethbridge and Sylvan. That's a fun matchup. We've got lots of just great games tonight, some rivalry matchups, and a divisional bout in that one that the Bulls lead 3-2. Those teams almost as close as they get. Here's Retzlaff. Back out for his fourth inning of work, and it's a 1-1 count here to begin against William Edwards. Mentioned how good Edwards has been since jumping into the WCBL. Retzlaff, swing and a miss, and behind here is Edwards. Every time the Miller Express lose a star player, it seems like they add one, and you could say that for most teams, but the turnover with finding guys who are similar to the guys they let go, it's almost a funny phenomenon that the Miller Express keep pulling off. Retzlaff, a low pitch here. It was Nate Mensek, the multiple-time All-Star, who they lost before they added William Edwards, and both those two sharing the trait of being able to push in runners, being very athletic, and being great with a bat in hand. Both very high average hitters as well, as that pitch sales high. It's a full count. And although Austin Gurney was lost from last year to this year, in the power department, maybe not all the home runs have been fulfilled by Chris Franks, but what he has done average-wise and across the table with hits and runs, very similar to what Gurney did prior as well. Edwards is jammed, and this one is into the stands. A one-hopper that is snagged by a fan, and although there's no out on the diamond, somebody definitely would have been out if he was playing in the field. That's an athletic move down there, and I'm not sure if any WCBLs are looking for guys that can just defend, but the catch made there, one-handed, quite impressive. Back to Retzlaff here on a full count look, and it's down the line and in for maybe more than a base hit for Edwards. He's around first, looking for second, and he will get in standing. 2 bags for William Edwards, and the tying run moves into scoring position here in the bottom of the fourth. You didn't think the Miller Express would be out of it for long, did you? William Edwards leading off, and that's a result that we've seen many times before. So now here comes Chris Franks. This top of the order, outside of Soto being in the leadoff spot, Edwards and Franks, it seems like they rotate where they hit game in and game out. Maybe it's just giving different looks to different teams. But it's also great to go righty-lefty, and depending on what the rest of your order does, they can match that up with who the cleanup hitter will be, depending on if that guy's a righty or a lefty. The lefty and Franks will swing and miss for strike one here against Retzlaff. Franks teetering back and forth, waiting on the offering from Retzlaff. One into the dirt. Grudelars will not throw. And for a team that steals as many bases as the Miller Express do, it is hard to do that tonight. One, the game hasn't offered for it, but Jaziel Grudelars doesn't let that happen a whole lot. And Michael Gonzalez and company, they read the scouting report before this game. They know what Grudelars can do with ball in hand. Some new balls being brought into the game here as the ball boy will exchange with the home plate umpire and Grudelars. Now we'll return to the 1-1 count that Chris Franks currently sees. Retzlaff. Just high. It'll be 2-1. There's one guy up in the Mavericks bullpen right now. Same over on the Miller Express side. Retzlaff hoping that he can at least get through this inning and then save the bullpen for the next. Retzlaff in a secure spot that'll even the count at 2-2. Retzlaff now on the opposite side of the mound. He walks back and gets in position, waits for Franks. Franks does not go down very easily. Usually it takes something on the ground or in the air. He's not a batter who likes to strike out a whole bunch. Franks fouls this one aside, and it's a stinger down the left field foul line. And just foul it goes. So 2-2 over to Franks. That sun really coming out, and it looks like the bugs as well. Some frantic swatting being done by Frankie Giacalone over at first base. Here's the pitch from Retzlaff, and it's high. It'll be a full count to Franks. Good take there by Franks as well. And he's a fun one to watch. The patient plate approach. The guy who can spray the ball left to right. He's unpredictable at the plate, and a lot of these Miller Express players are. Retzlaff looking for the first out of this top half of the inning. Here comes the pitch. Franks fouls that one nearly off his foot, and it looks like he's going to be okay. You just never know what part of the foot or leg that's going to catch, and it's always a scary sight when you get close to something like that. And I'm pleased to have back in the booth with me. It's been a little bit, James, but we're glad to have you back. Top of the fourth today, Miller Express and Medicine Hat Mavericks. And a nice little time away, but I'm sure you're happy to be back to watch some ball, especially with the game we've had today.
Yeah, there's been a lot of baseball, a lot of catching up here in this one. It's been a long game to start.
Ooh, and Franks, that's the stinger off the foot that I was mentioning. Might be a longer walk around this time for Franks as he tries to shake that off. Oh, I hate to see it, James. It's almost frustrating to see it happen because it's so unintentional. It's a freak accident, but it happens so often.
It is, and even for the guys that wear the brace or the foot cover, it seems to find the spot, right, where that's unprotected and, leaves a bit of a stinger here. And we're seeing that with Franks as he battles with Danny Retzlaff, an all-star in Franks, and he's showing why, right? He's a hard out to get.
Retzlaff debating on whether he wanted that pitch, and now he's going to go with it. Full count to Franks. Here it comes, and it'll be a bouncer, no swing from Chris Franks. And now there's 2 on for the Miller Express, and it looks like Ryan Reed is heading out of the dugout, and it will probably be to pull Danny Retzlaff out of this game. Already one mound meeting with him. We saw a guy warming up. Maybe not the early move that the Mavericks thought they were going to have to make with Retzlaff when he struggled in the first, but earlier, I'm sure, than they anticipated coming into this game.
You know, you look at the first, Moose Jaw put up 5, and they were finding the ball. There was a lot of barrels, and didn't know where this game was going to go for Danny Retzlaff. Gets out of that inning, only one run allowed in the second, and then works a clean third, and we see him run into trouble here, and Ryan Reed goes back to a lefty. So it's, as you said, Truman, far earlier than you would want to go to the bullpen, but I think both coaches today are just going to have to get used to that. That's where this game is. It's going to be a lot of arms, and it looks like a lot of hits and runs.
And I think both coaches are going to be okay with that, just for the fact that they know the other team is doing that. If you're using up a bunch of arms and you're not really in the game and the other team's got a guy that's going the whole way, then that can become frustrating. But as you mentioned, the task at hand here is get to the finish line, and they're going to pour out the bullpens here to do just that.
For sure. And, Mavs have a day off tomorrow. That helps a lot. I don't know how much it plays into it, Truman, the weather, right? It is 30 or 27, 30. These guys play in hot weather, so they're used to it. But, it's the middle of the summer, middle of the dog days. I think we're getting towards now, you would call it. We're past the first day of summer. So, again, I don't know how much that plays when these guys are in the summer heat all year. But, yeah, no, it's going to be a lot of arms.
Well, I'm sure there's some guys that think that this is cold. I'm sure some of those Florida boys are playing down in Texas. You get some hot heat, and I guess we've experienced some of the Florida weather up here this year with all the rain and crazy storms that have come out of nowhere. But at the same time, going back to what I was mentioning about the adjustment, for some guys, this is still cold.
For sure. I bet they've been waiting for this all year, and, Beck Button kind of airmails one there in the warm-ups. He'll be the new pitcher here for the Mavs.
And Beck Button, used to the northern weather, a Calgary kid, playing at Weber Academy, so he's been in the Canadian region for a while now. And then he came in with the Mavs. His first appearance, he was really, really good for a young guy. You just never know what you're going to see from some of these young players, but there was a confidence on the mound that Button brought, and that I think was a bit unexpected.
I'd say so. He worked 2 clean innings out of the bullpen and kept the Mavs in that game. I believe they ended up winning. Yes, and holding on. He worked, I believe it was 7th, 8th he worked, and it was the middle to late innings, and he worked clean, and it was against some really good hitters that he was able to fool.
And I think that was a game that the Mavs were down in early as well, and we saw that today. It's so weird. When the Mavericks are down, it seems like there's almost more confidence fan-wise, coaching-wise, player-wise, that they're going to come back than holding on to a lead late in games that maybe 1 or 2 runs. First pitch from Button's right close to the hitter in signs.
That's something, just talking to pitchers the last little bit here, Truman, is that they're finding more and more confidence in the bullpen. The bullpen is in itself, I should say, and that's a big part for the Mavs, who, as you've said, who've had to play from behind and have found comfort in that because it's kind of been what they've known. And as of late, the wins, have been a mix of grabbing a lead and hold on to it, and then also coming back and being able to sustain that and get a win.
Button. Pitch to Signs and no swing there. Eddie Signs has had a really good night and had started off well with that 2 RBI double. For a guy that hits the ball as hard as Signs does, it's not a surprise that we see him in the cleanup spot. But last year, there was some different moments for Signs. He batted lower in the lineup for a lot of it, but a trusted veteran. That's the reason he's up top this time around. Good pitch there from Button as he just sneaks that in on the inside half.
When you have a guy that has contact and can hit the ball hard, you can put them anywhere. The 3-hole's a good spot, or the 4-hole, can clean up the bases if there's guys on, as we see in this situation for Signs, or lower in the order to start a rally, bring runs in, whatever. It's a contact. Power is the name of the game right now in baseball, but contact is still pretty strong.
Right through the glove of Jaziel Grudelars, who's usually defensively sound, and a rare mishap there at the plate. And I'll bring the count to 2-2 according to the score clock to my left. Of course, we mentioned before, usually all the score clocks are different all at once, so you never know what the real count is. But 2-2, the right call here, and Grudelars a head shake down below. You feel like if you get the out to Signs and then you have the double play look, that you feel comfortable to exit the inning quickly. Not the case here for the Mavs and Beck Button on the mound. Button real close, Not close enough. This count will be full.
You know, where they're at in this lineup for Moose Jaw and who they have on and the pitching, you know, you're playing contained if you're the Mavs. There's 2 runners in scoring. One can score to tie. You really don't want to surrender the full lead and start trailing again. You'd love to get all 3, and it'll start here with Signs, but maybe play a little contained.
Button. And he gets Signs looking. Signs a frustrated look towards the umpire. And now a walk back to the dugout in frustration. So 1 out here for the Mavericks, a much needed out, but there's still 2 in scoring position. For a hitter as good as Signs, he batted .284, I believe, last year. He's above 300 again this year, around the 360 mark. So you don't see him go out very often. Beck Button making the best of the situation there.
And I like those 2 outside pitches. Ball 3 on the outside, goes back to it for strike 3, and just gets Signs looking, not expecting it to be called. And he gets the call, Button does, and now he gets 1 out.
He's working laterally here. He goes back to the inside approach on the first pitch here to Garen Plummer. Plummer rips this down the line, and it's in for maybe even more than a base hit. Edwards across to score, and the Miller Express, just like that, have the lead back. With tug of war here in the 4th inning, and it's a 2 RBI double for Garen Plummer.
Yeah, that's a nice hit from Plummer. His 2nd double of the day, and just takes it down the left field line and puts Moose Jaw back ahead here in this back and forth game that we're still only here in the 4th.
Garen Plummer, the single season hit by pitch record over at FDU Fairleigh Dickinson. That's not a record that I think anybody wants to hold, but he is the proud owner of it, and he's the proud owner of a 2 RBI double, which has given the Moose Jaw Miller Express the lead here in the 4th. Beck Button, low pitch on the first one. Now he'll see Gary Swan. Swan struggled to begin the year. He's 1 for 2 tonight. Swan into the air. Long way to go for Adam Volcano. And he is going to find the ball. Runner should be able to tag, and Plummer will head off for 3rd. So it'll be 2 outs here with the Miller Express looking to make it a 2-run lead if they can get Plummer across. Jimmy Kurtz hoping to be the guy to do just that. He'll see Beck Button for the first time.
If you're Button, you're hoping the lefty on lefty works here. It's a one advantage you have going into this one, and another one, as we said the last time Beck Button came in, probably facing guys you haven't seen before. They haven't seen you, and maybe you can surprise them here.
Key spot here for the Mavericks. You don't want to allow the Miller Express to get back up by more than 1, and it's a swing and a miss to Kurtz, who struck out his last time up. Looks like Beck Button will be in for more than 1 inning with nobody warming up. Mentioned he only went 2 last time. Can the Mavs push the limit and try and get him for 3? I guess we'll have to see how that unfolds. Kurtz, another swing and miss.
You'd almost wonder, Truman, if, as you said, it's 2 or 3. They like the look of the lefties against this lineup, and maybe it's how Ryan Reed is seeing how Moose Jaw built their lineup today, that lefty seems the way to go. Of course, you start with Danny Retzlaff. You got Beck Button come in, and it's been an all-left affair.
And it's over into right field as leaping into home plate and scoring is Garen Plummer, and it is a 2-run lead here for the Miller Express. So they lengthen that lead just a little bit. It's not the biggest lead they've had in this game, but a 2-run game, if you trust your pitching enough, you feel good about it down the line. I know talking to a lot of these Mavericks players, a 2-run lead is maybe not something that they would like as much, but they're on the other side of it trying to play comeback once again in this game.
And I think, they knew when they were only up 1 that it was going to take more than that against a team like Moose Jaw. And that's just a good hit there from Jimmy Kurtz, getting the head of the bat out there and pulling the ball into right field.
An account that he was behind, and he whiffed on 2 pitches before, and that's the confidence to stay with it and trust that you're at least doing something right and finding something you like. 0-1 here is near the bottom of the Moose Jaw Miller Express lineup is Caden Ransom. Ransom will foul that off. So back-to-back counts where starting the guys off with lots of strikes, and it's another 0-2 look, but Button looks to finish the job this time. Kurtz over at first. It's a long way to score, but you don't want to let things unfold even further, especially with the top of the order getting close.
You want to be able to put hitters away when you have them. A 2-strike count, it's as good a spot as any.
Grudelar's hopped up, is going to unleash over to second, and you could see Roth was a bit confused at that throw. It almost looked like he was trying to wave Grudelar's off and tell him not to go.
That's something where you see the ball end up in center field a lot when a guy is not expecting it or it's not close and then another player's trying to make up for it. And thankfully, Roth getting in front of that one for the Mavs and keeping Kurtz there at second.
1-2 here. Button. Eyes down Ransom, and then stepping away was Button. Ransom. Ground ball over towards Johnny Volcano. He'll swing to first, and the throw on time to get the sprinting Caden Ransom. It's a 3-run top half for the Miller Express, who grabbed the lead right back. And the Mavs, their 2 from the inning prior wasn't good enough. But who knows what's going to be good enough in this game. We still got lots of ball to play, and in a 2-run game, anything can happen. Stick around here on Flow Sports. So Rowan Robinson, last inning was his last. They'll bring in Jordan Bauer, who's had a illustrious WCBL career, and he's had a pretty good year so far with the Moose Jaw Miller Express. He comes in to relieve here against Carter Roth, who will lead off the inning. Bauer, high leg kick, and first pitch is a strike to Roth. For a guy that has been as solid out of the bullpen over the years as Jordan Bauer, it's kind of shocking to see that he hasn't made an all-star game throughout his time in the WCBL and was, I guess, a snub of sorts this year. The Miller Express really like what he can do. They have a couple of bullpen arms that they trust, and he is a regular in big games.
That's a big part for the manager and head coach just to have that. Guys they can lean on in a big moment, and they go to him a little earlier here, but it's the heart of the Mavs order.
Bauer with a 3.65 ERA so far this year, 7 strikeouts to 1 walk. He's pitched just over 12 innings so far, and he's got Roth in a 1-2 situation.
I like the high leg kick, Truman. I think we need to see more pitchers implement it.
Well, the opposite from Rowan Robinson, who had a very, very miniature leg kick. I wouldn't even call it a kick. Bauer goes the outside route, and no swing there from Carter Roth. Bauer instantly back into the glove. 2-2 to Roth. Ooh, that one close think it hit the bat before it hit the hand, if it did at all. And judging by Roth's body language, it was just the bat.
So Bauer's really going inside, outside here on Roth. You wonder, we've seen the back and forth if he goes back inside here trying to fool the Mavs all-star, or how he kind of approaches here with a 2-2 count.
Bauer, high kick, goes outside again, no swing. Saw the Weyburn Beavers here at Athletic Park a little while ago, and that's the former team of Jordan Bauer. He was with them in 2024. Full count. Bauer. Roth just stays alive as that one was up top.
If I had to guess, outside, next pitch, follow the routine. You don't want to get predictable, but that's what it's been, right?
Routine-wise, that's what it would look
Bauer.
like, but for Roth, he just doesn't swing it a whole bunch.
No.
Bauer. He goes inside, and he gets Carter Roth. A rare strikeout for Roth and a switch-up of the routine there, James, moving across the plate.
You see Carter Roth didn't think that was a strike. Catcher Gary Swan ready to throw the ball back to the pitcher, goes, throw it at third. I guess it's a strikeout. And, it works out well for Jordan Bauer going inside there for the final strike and switches it now up to Eric Calder.
Eric Calder, last time up, the fans thought he had one out, and it laid into the glove of William Edwards in right field. But it looks like the power is there tonight. Can Calder add a little bit more? He gets a first pitch strike from Bauer here. Calder having a long discussion with the umpire. We've seen him talk to the umpire more in the last two games than ever before.
And I think that's just finding the zone. Doesn't seem like it was heated or he was questioning things too much, just trying to find where the edges are.
This one out to left field, and the play will be made for the second out. It was Jimmy Franks who nabbed the ball as it came in his direction. Now Johnny Volcano up to the plate. Volcano has been perfect so far. 1 for 1 with a walk. It's a pretty solid evening for a guy who, James was mentioning before you arrived, the batting this year has gotten a lot better, and the consistency at the plate is what is super noticeable.
Yeah, and it's a big part of how the Mavs are going to have success is if a guy like Johnny Volcano can have that consistency on both sides of the ball, defensively and at the plates, and maybe haven't seen the wins the Mavs have expected total-wise, seen it as of late, and I think Volcano's played a big part of that.
Bauer, the leg kick again, he'll miss outside. Mentioned Jordan Bauer's a guy who doesn't walk a lot of batters. Through his first 2 years before this year, one spent with Weyburn, as I mentioned, the other spent with Moose Jaw in 2025. 28 strikeouts to 16 walks. In the WCBL, those are good numbers. Here's Volcano. Pop up over towards right field. A long way to go. William Edwards will make the grab as the former soccer player uses his range well, and usually don't have to run that fast in soccer games, so turning up the tempo there was Edwards for the out. The Mavs trail by 2 and unable to get any after the big top half from the Miller Express. James, what is it that the Miller Express have continued to do, even beyond this game, for so long that have caused the Mavericks problems throughout the years?
I think it is just how they are relentless on the attack offensively. They have got, they've always had stars. You think back to Nate Mensick, Thomas Gurney. I'm blanking now, and that doesn't help. Thomas Soto, pardon me, Austin Gurney. Sorry, I said Thomas Gurney. Austin Gurney, Thomas Soto. They looked like they were both sluggers, so they blended. But no, they've always had the big guys, but they always, they're just relentless. They have guys that can attack. William Edwards, you see it right now. Ben Wallachek is just a hard baseball player to play against. And I think that's been the brand for Moose Jaw, is be hard to play against. Have your guys, have your Moose, frankly, which is their logo. And, you have that in Weston Walls. And they have that throughout the order that they can lean on and just wear other teams down. And we've seen the Mavs have to battle through that in playoff series wins and losses, and even more so in the regular season.
You mentioned wear teams down, and I think that's the perfect way of putting it. There's no short games against Moose Jaw. It's not because their pitchers take a long time or their batters are always stepping out of the box, but it is because they play this brand of small ball that, allows them to generate a lot of hits. They steal a lot of bases, and games can get really long when you do those two things.
Never seen Moose Jaw quit in a game. They've just never, even if they're down a lot, they're still in it. They're trying to make your pitcher throw more pitches, or get into the bullpen further, and just wear other teams down.
Beck Button for his second inning here. There's a strike to the first hitter he'll see in this inning. That is Ben Wallachek at the plate by the looks of it. So the speed sector here with Soto on deck. Oh, and that will allow Wallachek to get to first, and you can see the grimace on his face. He'll head down that way now. Now he's going to be even more motivated to steal after he got hit on the side there.
Yeah, he's feeling that one, and he wants to get on second as quick as he can. It's always tough when you square up to bunt, and especially a lefty. The ball's coming in on a right-handed hitter, as Wallachek's going to need a little bit more time here to walk that off. And luckily, it doesn't look like it got him anywhere high, just a little bit on the forearm or shoulder as he shakes it out. And now Button has to contend and try to battle here with one of the Moose Jaw Miller Express's fastest players on first.
Yeah, this might be one of the few times where the double play is almost completely out of effect. There could be one right at Volcano or Roth, and I don't know if the timing is going to be there to be able to double up these two. Ball will roll along the line for Soto, who had a bunt attempt there. Talked about he could be a candidate for the bunt derby at the All-Star game this year, and that one just wide, so he'll reset it 0-1.
I'm sure you talked about it, Truman, so apologies for re-bringing it up. Who do you think the Mavs would be? If you just from seeing the game and knowing who's going, player-wise?
Well, the Mavs don't bunt a whole bunch.
No.
In terms from a contact perspective, you'd go Roth, but I would never tell Carter Roth to bunt with how well he hits the ball. Runner going to go here. Soto down the line, and that statement about only getting one is going to prove true. In time at first as they get Soto. What a throw from Nick Hill, and the splits on the other side by Giacalone.
The hair worked on that one. The hair on the corner. Hill from the third base just ranging to his right gets it. Had no chance at second, and I don't think he expected how fast Thomas Soto was going down there to first. Gets the throw out, and Frankie Giacalone reaching out and getting the out.
Beck Button will have to deal with Wallachek over on second base. He can score from there in most situations if the ball is fair. Button will hope to get an out here, but he's got a big threat in front of him in William Edwards, who's had a really good night.
And it's not a good spot for Jaziel Grudelars, right? Trying to get that runner on third. He's got the right-handed batter in his way. It's hard to throw around a guy like William Edwards, and I think he's going to probably try if Wallachek goes here. He stuttered on that last pitch and faked going.
Edwards 2 for 3 in this game. Lunging out was Grudelars to receive the ball. It'd be 1-1 to Edwards. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised here. This is a Moose Jaw-ian move. I don't know if that's a word, but it is now.
Well, and it gets Wallachek to third for a sac fly, right? And he's the kind of guy that can score on most.
Here he goes. Grudelars was moving before the ball even arrived, and that's just the threat of Wallachek. There's not a lot you can do, and he had to be early. If the ball gets to the backstop, it's moving hard anyways. Maybe a little bit of luck off the bounce there as well for Grudelars.
For sure, and for it to be a foul ball, sending him back. And, now you wonder if Wallachek's going to go with 2 strikes or if he can keep him on second here as you try to contend with William Edwards.
Wasn't even sure that Edwards got a piece of it, but that makes more sense to why Grudelars couldn't receive. Wallachek won't go, and working away and low is Button again. 2-2 count here to Edwards. Button kicks, deals, low, no swing from Edwards. He's one of the few guys, if it's 0-2 or if it's 2-0, his odds seem to stay the same. There's not many better hitters at 0-2 in the league than William Edwards, and one of them might be his teammate in Thomas Soto, but that's about it. Wallachek. This one hit towards Nick Hill. Goes over to first. A high throw, and that's kind of a welcome to Medicine Hat one there. Wallachek will come in to score. It's a 3-run game. Nick Hill probably not aware of what the sun can do over at first base, and Giacalone was blinded almost the whole time.
Maybe he tries to get a little too on it, knowing the speed beside him, trying to get it over there quick. So if Giacalone has to go home, he has a chance. And, just that one pops out of his glove, and they're unable to get it as Wallachek crosses, and as you said, Moose Jaw grabs a three-run lead.
That'll be something with not a lot of practice here, too, for Nick Hill. You can't expect him to make that play. That's kind of, even though you give up a run and it hurts in the moment, you can't fault the guy who just hasn't experienced it.
It's tough, right, to come up, and, I think he got here yesterday, I believe Hill did, so it takes some time to get into it, and I'm sure he'll kick himself, and the best part is he gets to respond now, whether that's at the plate or defensively, and, try to rebound from it.
Pitch outside to Franks, 1-1. Beck Button, good at getting 2 strikes. It's been the third one that's been a problem, and that's just the compete level from Moose Jaw, squaring one up when they know they're down to their last strike.
It's got to be a good pitch, whether you're looking for a strikeout or a ground ball, and he's gotten a couple ground balls here, but only getting the one out from it.
Franks, underneath Giacalone, who dove out to make the play. Edwards is on his way to third base. It would take a miracle throw. Runner over to second, and you maybe don't like the long throw in there, knowing that Franks has a chance to get over, which he does. Now 2 in scoring position for Moose Jaw.
Would have liked to keep Franks at first for the double play, right? Still only 1 out in this inning, and now Moose Jaw's back where they were a couple batters ago, really to start the frame as runners in scoring position.
And Andrew Bench will come out and talk to Beck Button here. Couple of pitchers warming up. You usually don't see the 2 look for the Mavs over there, but they do have 2 different guys going. Looks like one is Jackson Miller, and the other, I think it could be Dan Farrell down there. Those are just guesses for now, but trying to see the numbers from long distance, that's kind of what I've come to.
Should really get some we should get like horse racing binoculars up here just to look down and
that would be
get dialed in. That might be an investment.
We could install one of those telescopes in here. The ones when you look into them, you see the stars and stuff.
Do I have to bring quarters?
You have to bring
Do I have to bring a quarter to make it work?
A quarter? Oh, you know what? That's a good idea. I'm going to make it a business. Because everybody they'll come up here, they'll see it. Well, can I try it? Oh, then more money for me.
Yeah.
Help me buy all the sparkling water that continues to fuel this voice. It's fading slowly as the day goes on, but, it'll recover at some point. Just like the weather, it isn't going to rain every single day. You're going to get some sun at some point, and we have a perfect night tonight, so we're on the good side of things.
Finally got to get to tout, the sunniest city in Canada. It feels like the last little bit here for Med Hat.
2 in scoring position. Button misses low. And you can't fault Button. He's put it in the zone. Moose Jaw just put it back his way.
And that's just part of their brand that we talked about a little bit ago. And we saw that in the first inning, really, against Danny Retzlaff. I was watching behind home plate. He was hitting the zone, and maybe was just getting too much of it with these Moose Jaw, with how these Moose Jaw bats can swing.
Swinging a foul off here. Low toss from the home plate umpire back, and an adjustment of the guard down there for Miller Express member in Eduardo Sainz. Sainz taking his time to get back in here. Waiting on deck behind him is Garen Plummer, who's had a good night. And Plummer with a big rally hit in his last time up. Now 14 hits for the Miller Express, and time called again here. You can see shortening up the swing there is Eduardo Sainz. There's lots of room between the end of that bat and his hands. We'll see if he adjusts that or if he keeps to it. Button. Sainz with a home run looking swing. He fouls that off, but he adjusted his hands back to the end of the bat, so must just be something before he gets in the box as a part of his routine.
To stay short with it maybe is the mindset going into it, and then we see the long swing, and it'd be interesting to see now 2 strikes here, how much he shortens up and tries to just put something in play.
Button. Hands high. Swing and a miss as he strikes out Eduardo Sainz, and the 2-on will still sit here for the Millers. Now brings up Garen Plummer. He's done it once tonight. He's done it twice tonight. Can he do it again? This is the guy they want up right now. There's a lot of guys you would take if you're Moose Jaw, but specifically to this game, Plummer has dominated and 2 for 2 on the evening because of it.
He's been a big part of the reason why they're ahead, got ahead early, and now lead here in the 5th inning. And he looks to do it again. If you're Beck Button, it's a guy you have to try to work around. You saw him the Mavs saw him last inning, I should say.
This one springs off the bat. It's going to be a tough play, and Volcano took a great route to get to it. Didn't know how deep that ball would play. It held up in right field, and that will do it. The Mavs, well, they managed to leave 2 Miller runners on, and Beck Button escapes the inning. They do give up the 1 run. It's now a 3-run Miller Express lead as we get into the middle of the 5th, and we'll have the bottom half when we return. Jordan Bauer, 2nd inning to go here for the Miller Express reliever. And a swing and a miss from Nick Hill in his 3rd plate appearance. 1 for 2 on the night. Struck out looking in his last at-bat. But he helped propel that Mavs initial comeback, and we're still waiting to see what Nick Hill's all about. But the expectations are very high.
From everything I've heard, there's a lot of promise here and a lot of deepening the lineup that Nick Hill adds for the Mavericks here. And, I liked the first at-bat getting on, and then the second bat's tough. Same inning, right? Had to come up again, or got to come up again, and strikeout looking isn't the greatest way to end the inning, but has shown flashes here in his first game.
Bauer kicks, Hill misses, and I believe he got a tip on that, so it'll be 1-2.
It's a ferocious swing. I don't know if you had to rank it up against Frankie Giacalone's. There's a lot of wind going through there with those swings.
Yeah, in terms of 2 guys who hack at the ball, I don't know if I've ever, Eric Calder could be in the conversation too, but those 2 I think are on a different planet. Bauer, Hill pops this one foul. Hill with that long hair, as you mentioned, very noticeable. You're going to have a dozen kids in the crowd now growing their hair out, wanting to be Nick Hill if he can do something big in his time with the Mavs here.
He's a right-handed Jason Worth is just kind of what I see right now.
Good pull. Here's Bauer. Hill up in towards center field, stretching all the way back is Franks, and it is gone. A 2-run ball game now, and that is what Nick Hill was said to be when he arrived here in Medicine Hat. Ryan Reed says he can put the ball over, and he does. His first home run as a Maverick.
Welcome to the WCBL, Nick Hill. He got a lot of that one, Truman, almost dead center, and that's promising for the Mavericks to have that and to deepen that lineup. And, we saw the fist bump as he rounded second base. And, I talked about when he makes that error there, gets to make up for it, brings a run in now, and it is that 2-run game the Mavs trail.
There's no hill too large for him to climb, and that would have scraped up the top of many mountains. Of course, the berm not too high as he sends that one into the middle of it. Here's Jaziel Grudelars, a slow roller as he chugs down towards first, and the ball is dropped at the very end. We'll see what the call is here. I believe they're going to rule him safe. There's always that question, did the runner make contact with the first baseman? And I don't think Plummer ever had the ball in his grasp.
No, it looked like it just bounced out, and the Mavs can continue momentum here in the fifth.
And how about Mr. Momentum, Adam Volcano? Talk about how big of a spark plug he is. He already had the home run that gave the Mavs the lead in this game. Now he comes up again. Jaziel Grudelar's on. Same scenario that he found one over the fence last time. Bauer. Head nod as he stares down the pipe. This one going to be missed. Swan down, crouched to get it again. Gary Swan's work, I mentioned it in the first 2 innings, but he's been asked to do a lot, and he keeps delivering with great movement and a great ability to side shuffle behind the plate.
He's a pretty good wall back there, and the white gear stands out with the Millers jerseys, but it works, and he's dancing around.
Snapped ball over to short, could be 2. Down to first, and a high throw in time. A double play for the Miller Express. It was awfully close, but they get a guy who's got some speed in Adam Volcano, and that is a bit of momentum back their way now after giving up the home run.
That is, and it was real close at first base. Adam Volcano runs pretty well, and maybe a little softer hit, not right to the shortstop, the Miller shortstop Thomas Soto, and I think Volcano beats that out, but no luck there, and it turns over now to Evan Morrison.
Bauer and Morrison, their first duel of the night. I believe they've faced off against each other before. Maybe not when Bauer was in Weyburn, but during his Moose Jaw days, him and Morrison have been against each other. Morrison waits and takes there. That'll be a ball. So 2 balls, no strikes for Morrison, who's 0 for 3 tonight after what was a almost mini breakout night within the season yesterday. It's been a much different story tonight for Evan. He's going to pop this one up near Gary Swan. Should be playable right against the net, and it just bounces down below off the kind of cliff edge.
Padding?
I believe that stayed in play. Yeah, it was off the padding.
Yeah.
There.
It's new life for Evan Morrison, 2-1 count here, and he stays alive in this at bats, and he can try to fight and keep the inning alive and turn it over now for Blake Dale, or try to put the ball in play somewhere.
Bauer, the long stare down, the step back, kicks forth, and a swing and a miss, and that'll make it a 2-2 count here for Morrison. Bauer, Morrison into flight. This one's got some distance as well, right to the warning track, and Franks will make the play. Deepest part of the park. It's hard to get it out going in that direction, and Morrison just a couple steps shy. Nick Hill did get one out going that way earlier in the inning as the Mavs get one back. It's a 2-run game and a game that is far from over. Morrison oh so close to making that just 1 run. And this is what the Millers and Mavericks do best. They go back and forth. There's no quit, and it is one you have to keep your eyes on the television or your ears peeled to the audio, whichever you may choose. Regardless, we've got a dandy on our hands. Beck Button will set his career high for most innings pitched throughout his WCBL tenure as he's on the mound again here for the top of the 6th inning. And looking for a clean one, they have been hard to come by in this game. Only 3 times as a team put up 0. The Mavs did it twice. The Millers just once. That was back in the 3rd. Their offense has been rolling and will look to continue to do that here in the 6th. Button, high pitch, 2-0 count here as he starts off against Gary Swan.
And you'd like a 0 if you're the Mavs. Moose Jaw's only had the one scoreless inning. You'd like a second one here as you try to chip away in the lead and try to get back here in front.
Another high pitch from Button who gives a valid head shake there. There's one body warming up down in the Mavericks bullpen. I'm not sure how many are ready to go. It looks like that could be Brant Spencer down there, usually used in a starter role, and a 4-pitch walk here to Gary Swan. And for a guy whose batting average isn't very high, that's a guy probably that Beck Button, if he could go back, would like to challenge more.
Don't want to walk that kind of a hitter. Don't want to walk the leadoff hitter as well to start off an inning. And you mentioned Brant Spencer. We've seen something this year, Truman, that I haven't seen from the Mavs in other years as starters. Their side pen day that they usually throw either before a game or after a game is in the game. And, between Derek Archer a couple times do it. And I don't mind. You see your best starter or best pitchers usually are your starters, and they get to work an inning or 2 in a game that you're trying to win.
There's a strike to Kurtz from Beck Button. The lights coming on here in the outfield, so we'll see if that causes any problems for the fielders. Button, look over towards first. Swan sidesteps, and that one caught Jazeel Grudelaars by surprise. There's been a couple times tonight, I think even dating back to Retzlaff, where these left-handed pitchers and Grudelaars have not been on the same page.
Just a lot of movement, I think, is the biggest part, too. And, it's expanding the zone and maybe just getting a little bit more horizontal move on pitches than expected.
Kurtz shifts this one over to left field, and it will drop for a base hit, and there's 2 aboard for the Miller Express here. It'll bring up Caden Ransom. Nobody out yet. And this could be it. It looks like it will be it here for Beck Button as Ryan Reed will come out to the mound, so he will not get to finish his appearance, and both runners on will belong to him. Looks like Brant Spencer's coming in. You mentioned that they're doing that more often with the pitchers, and, it worked. You think about the Weyburn game. That was almost a must-win game. You wanted to get the sweep of the series. They bring in Derek Archer, who's reliable, and maybe it's because not a lot of guys in their bullpen have been consistent this year. You have to go to the best option.
They're going to pitch anyways, those guys, right? They're going to have that side pen that day. Why not do it in a game and, get those outs productive, right? Face batters. And, I was talking to Derek Archer about that today, named an all-star as well today for the Mavs. And, he says he can work on pitches and do so against hitters, obviously trying to get outs and win a ball game. But there's no better feedback than instant feedback in a game. And you get that with these side pen outings, I'll call it. Like I don't expect Brant Spencer to go beyond this inning, maybe 2. It depends on where the pitch count is and, where he is just in the outing and how many hard pitches he has to throw. High stress is maybe a better word than hard pitches, right? And this is a good spot. He's coming in, runners on first and second. This is going to be a high-stress outing, so it's a good way to test it and get the blood pressure going here, on an off day.
And for a 17-year-old, that's another good way. You want to give them those moments to give them a taste or a feel of what that next level's like when there's lots of fans around in a big game that's close. And for Spencer, I think he's a guy that the Mavs feel can handle that. And, throughout my conversations with him, I think he is that way as well. His dad was a professional hockey player, so there's lots of pressure that comes with playing in the AHL and some of those higher leagues. And it might just be a part of who Spencer is that he can tackle some of these big situations.
For sure. And, this is big picture, really big picture, long into the future of in the playoffs. It's 3-game series. You only get to use 3 starters. Is Spencer Brant, pardon.
No, you had it right.
Brant Spencer, yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Oh, man, it was a long break for me, Truman, away from the mic. But Brant Spencer, is he one of your top 3 arms? Is he not? Okay, he's going to probably then. You want to throw all your best in a quick series, so maybe see what he can do out of the bullpen here, in an outing like this or in a jam. Can he come in and work into it and find success.
Yeah. What happens in Calgary obviously stays in Calgary, but I won't comment any further. It's not Vegas though, so obviously the events, if you're trying to imagine what they may be, are not quite as crazy as Vegas.
If you get a chance to go to the Calgary Stampede, go to the Calgary Stampede. That's I think that Truman and I can both endorse that.
It's a must. Spencer's first pitch right into the teeth of Jaziel Grudelars. Nobody out, 2 on here for the Miller Express. The Mavericks trying to avoid another inning where they give up runs to this Miller Express group. Spencer to his side, almost a cradling motion for Brandt. Spencer dots that for a strike. Count will move to 1-1. James, we've spoke about the All-Stars a bit. At the conclusion of this inning, we'll give you the whole rundown of who's actually going for both sides because we've kind of just hopped around the event. Brant Spencer, a very bright future, and I'm sure lots of all-star games in the high school ranks, but within the WCBL, he'll look for his first. He's only in his second season. Grudelars thought about throwing it down to second base. A smart move by Swan not to run.
That's a really, really good block by Jaziel Grudelars. Gets over, gets a little bit of it, almost in the kidney, takes that ball, and, it settles to his right. He's able to find it quickly and, find where his runners are, doesn't force a throw, and keeps everybody at bay.
2-1 here. Chance to load up the bases for the Miller Express. Maybe even get one through if they get a hit from Caden Ransom, who's at the plate. Spencer. That one low. Spencer not a fan of the call, and he'll take his time heading back towards the rubber. 3-1 situation. If it's something close to the zone, Ransom's going to be swinging all day. Spencer kicks, and a strike is called. I've never seen that look on your face before, James.
It's a 3-2 count. It's, maybe strike one way, ball the other. Either way, it's. I agree with where the count is at here is Brant Spencer now gets to try to get his first out.
Yeah, I'm sure he's confused now to what a strike looks like because he thought he had the one before. I don't think he had that one. Full count, Spencer on the way, and a swing and a foul off. If that one lands fair, could have caused a lot of commotion. Instead, we'll reset.
Yeah, they had no chance. Mavs at third, at second. That was Nick Hill going right to first and trying to get Ransom there.
Even on a play like that, sometimes the runner from third can think about stretching it all the way around depending on what happens.
Can kind of creep up as the third baseman's going for the ball and make the throw and sprint home from there.
Full count again. Spencer on his side. Ransom. This into a really good location. A long way to go. Stretching over, diving out, and unable to make the play from left field. And then slowly getting up is Blake Dale. 2 runners will come around. Both will score. A bases clearing double and a interesting celebration over there. Some pumping, we'll call it, from Caden Ransom.
That was a nice hit. He just found the open alley in the outfield, and a credit to Blake Dale, laid out for it. I can't see exactly from here how close he was to it, and Evan Morrison gets it in quick. I don't know if Johnny Volcano would have had a chance at home with 2 runners coming in back to back, and it bobbles the relay a bit there, and Moose Jaw finds himself ahead now by 4.
Well, and that grass gets slippery too, especially when you're an infielder trying to move back to get one in, and we see slips more often than not out there, and it could have even been something with the footing for Volcano. Is that transition's really tough. Bunt laid down here, nobody at third. Hill will go to first. He had to double clutch, and the reaction you could have predicted there from Ben Wallachek. Lots of hopping as if it was a bounce house down there over at first base, and instead he will hop, skip, and land himself in the dugout.
I don't think Ben Wallachek's ever thought he's been out, and I don't mind that. He hard-nosed ball player is Ben Wallachek, and he lays down a nice bunt there and moves a runner, Ransom, into scoring position even more so at third now, and he can cross the plate on a sac fly.
Speaking of hard-nosed, I know it's a hockey comparison, but a little bit of Brad Marchand in there?
Little bit, yep.
He's a guy that can glue you together. There's antics associated, but a really good player, and that's one thing that's just never doubted.
No, and that's the basis of Ben Wolochek.
Thomas Soto switches over to the other side, so we'll see how he does as a left-handed batter in this game. Soto underneath the glove of Volcano. Another run comes in to score. A tough play with the infield playing in. If he's back off, probably a much easier out at first, but the one out remains, and a long day for Brant Spencer out there in just his one inning of work.
Yeah, that's a tough one for Volcano. As you mentioned, infield in, and just it has to be a first instinct, and it just slides under it a bit there, and that is Thomas Soto as well. So that's a hard hit ball, and it's going to be hard to get a glove on it.
17 hits now in this game for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. We're not through the sixth. Spencer. Down low to Grudelars. Control has been a factor here for Spencer. He's not been dotting his spots. A longer intermission in between pitches here for Spencer. Now he'll regather, and Grudelar's going to go back down to first. Tag wasn't in time. Ron Shuchuk with the call over on that side. There is a signal between Grudelars and Frankie Giacalone that they kind of curated during their college season, and it must have been put down there. I don't know what it is, and I didn't see it, but they obviously did. That's the important part.
Yeah, it's nice when you have that chemistry, right? Especially those fielders, you can make plays like that the opposing team can't see.
Here's one out over towards left field. Blake Dale looked like he may have lost his footing out there for a second, was able to get to it, and that'll be 2 out now for Brant Spencer and company.
I wonder maybe, Truman, if it was a mix of trying to get behind the ball in case he had to throw to first, to try to get Thomas Soto, which would be hard to double him up off, and gets under it regardless. But yeah, a little slow getting behind it.
So the second 3-run inning of the game for the Miller Express. They also had 5 in one, so the third time that they've been above 3, and it may continue here. A tough one into that spot. Dale's over. He's going to play it, and instead it's going to go over the fence. Expecting to play it off the wall was Blake Dale, and instead it's a 2-run shot into left field for Chris Franks.
He got just enough of it. It was right there. It looked like it was going to bang off the wall, and instead it goes over it. And, Moose Jaw very quickly, their second 5-run inning of this game, and they lead 15-8.
And Brant Spencer's day is done. He was walking off the mound before Ryan Reed even got there, so we'll see who the Mavs go to here next. They've used up a lot of arms, both teams have in this game, and they're going to have to use one more here in the 6th, looking for one last out. The Miller Express, their lead back to 7. All that work to come back feels like almost for nothing now with where we stand.
For 40 years, we've been there, helping Canadians find the extra space they need to grow and to create new memories. Sentinel Storage. Buy Canadian, store Canadian.
Eddie Signs, the first batter that Jackson Miller will see as he comes into the game. Miller came in and got the save a couple nights ago here against Weyburn at Athletic Park. So we'll see if that success carries over into today's game. First pitch, high, no swing from Signs. Miller, a guy from Oklahoma City, a diehard Dallas Cowboys fan. He says, at times I think my dad would rather watch the Cowboys than me, but he loves both just as much. And when you get down in Oklahoma, you'll find a lot of those Cowboys fans. Strike there from Miller.
It's a slower delivery from the Mavs pitcher and Jackson Miller, and he was able to find his spot there with that last pitch. You wonder how much that throws hitters off, just a bit of a slowing up on the delivery.
1-1 here between Miller and Signs. One very close. Not getting the call is Miller. Miller, a guy that doesn't like to work from behind, says obviously he's passionate about finding the strike zone and feels that he can find it more times than not. Signs crushes this one out over towards right field. It's got good carry, and it's gone. Another home run for the Miller Express as the party goes on. It's Eddie Signs who goes deep.
Just takes that one the other way. Saw Adam Volcano in right jog a little bit, and he stopped. Saw it was too far, and it's a lot of home runs in this game, a lot of hits, a lot of runs, and it's an 8-run lead now for Moose Jaw.
And a lot of games still to be played in that same sentence. I can't believe we're only in the 6th here, and the sun beginning to go down. We've had some games this year that have finished with the sun still up. I don't think this will be one of them. The bugs are about to crawl out and cause some commotion for the fans out there, and the winter jackets may come out as well. Not sure how the temperature is expected to hold up or if it is. Miller's pitch will miss again here. Mavs still searching for that last out. They've now given up 19 hits to the Miller Express. Miller, long pause. Now this one's stretched over into left center. It drops for a base hit. Thinking about 2 there for a second and maybe getting carried away was Garen Plummer. He'll head back towards first base. And now that's 20 hits for Moose Jaw.
And a credit to Evan Morrison, gets that ball in quick, limits Plummer to just the single there, and doesn't let them move up and get that runner in scoring position.
This was a game that the Mavericks were right in, and it feels like it's completely slipped away and gotten out of control. And sometimes it just takes one inning, and this 6th is indicative of that.
We'll see what they can do if they can get some zeros on the board on the defensive side and get the offense a chance to try to come back.
Miller, first pitch to Swan is a strike. So far tonight, the only team in the WCBL to reach double digits, the Moose Jaw Miller Express. A couple of teams with 8 runs tonight, the Fort Mac Giants and Okotoks Dogs, but besides that, it's just Moose Jaw. Miller, Swan fouls this one back, and it's gloved by Jimmy Kurtz in the on-deck circle. Miller, 0-2 count, looking for a strikeout to Gary Swan. Swan chops this one through the gap and in for a base hit. Falling over is Frankie Giacalone. There's been a couple that he's dove for tonight, and because he's playing so shallow and so in, it's made it tricky for him to wrap up those plays.
And keeping the runner on, right, at first, it just limits the range a bit there, and credit to him, still dives out and tries his best to get at the batted ball.
2 on, up to the plate's Jimmy Kurtz. Mentioned some of those scores around the league. The Mavs getting a helping hand here from the Swift Current 57s, who are up 5-3 on the Weyburn Beavers, and I'm sure lots of Mavericks fans and even some Miller Express fans, because they're obviously in the same division, keeping a close eye on that game tonight, and that the most important of the bunch. Strike there to Jimmy Kurtz. The other game that's important for the Miller Express is the Saskatoon battle that's going on against the Okotoks Dogs. The Berries are trailing 8-2, and I think that just speaks to how good Okotoks is this year. Like, they are the real deal, and they've been subbing arms in and out all year, and they've still found consistency with new faces coming in at all times.
And that just feels like Dogs baseball. Whoever they can get good arms in and good players in, and just kind of cycle through that and still find success.
Ball here from Miller. Count will drift to 1-1. It's an 8-1 lead for the Fort Mac Giants, who look to get back in the playoff race against the team they're trailing in Energy City, and then a 3-3 tie in the top of 9 in Sylvan against Lethbridge, which you could have expected. I'm happy that game has that score. That's going to make it fun for the fans. Kurtz watches that one hit for a strike. The ball felt like it took forever to get to its spot, but when it did, it was on the right side for Miller.
Just bends in there a little bit, and has to put the blinker on and check the blind spot, and is able to get in there for a strike.
Yeah, there must be a yield sign out there somewhere. 1-2 to Kurtz. Miller. I'm not sure how that one didn't hit Jimmy Kurtz. Went right through him. Mr. Invisible out there, and makes it 2-2.
Miller, I don't know if it's just him now out of the stretch trim, and just reminds me a little bit of, Blue Jays fans would remember Marco Estrada, from the 15-16 teams. Just a little step up before he pitches, and, not the fastest pitcher, but is able to find his spot when he needs to.
Miller sails this one far, and it'll be a full count. That's not a bad comparison. Former Oakland A Marco Estrada.
All-star. Playoff
he was an
performer.
all-star.
I think he was.
Yes,
I believe he was an all-star.
That rotation had a lot of all-stars. R.A. Dickey, my favorite pitcher of all time, personally, the knuckleballer. Aaron Sanchez, believe he was on that team. Of course, Stroman and David Price, two big names as well. Full count. Miller back over to Kurtz, and he fouls it off. Speaking of the A's and Kurtz, obviously Nick Kurtz was a phenomenal rookie last season, won the Rookie of the Year. I think he was even a Silver Slugger, and I'm sure Jimmy trying to replicate what the elder Kurtz at the next level has been doing.
Yeah, a lefty slugger. It all just it fits right in, for the Kurtz name, and he's a really special talent for the Athletics, and it's a good, looking at the at Major League Baseball, it's good to see the Athletics franchise finding success again.
Pitch is nearly behind Kurtz here, so he will walk.
I think it caught Kurtz in the leg there, and he'll wear that one and take it now to load the bases for Moose Jaw.
Just judging on the reaction, he didn't really flinch a whole bunch, so I'm not sure if that was the guard helping out there, but he was headed to first either way. I guess, obviously, he has to pay the price, even though he didn't need to. He was headed there regardless because of pitch not being in line. Miller still struggling to get out of this inning here. And in a 16-8 game with the bases loaded, now you can start to think mercy rule. I don't think we were thinking about that at all, but Caden Ransom's up to the plate. A great piece of hitting last time he came up into a pristine spot over in left field. It dropped right in between Blake Dale and Evan Morrison, and if he can do that again, it might clear the bases. 1-0 count to Miller. Let's see if he gives him anything to hit here. Pitch is going to miss in the dirt. Runners will hold up. They're not in a rush to score here with the big lead.
No, Grudelaars does a good job getting the glove on that, keeping it in front of him, and doesn't have to chase behind him for it. He's able to see where all the runners are and how quick he has to go if there was going to be a play at home, and there was not.
Miller waiting for Ransom to get back into the box. Here's the pitch. Ransom pops it up. Giacalone heading over towards the dugout. He's not afraid of any pole, and he goes right into that one again. The top of that railing. We've seen him run into some fences this year. Oh, my. I don't know how you get the confidence to run so fast through something. And even in a game like this, you know, you're down by 8 runs and you're still willing to put your body through that. It's a spectacle.
It's a guy that wants to win, and, you know, he got a glove on that one, just wasn't able to get all of it and you know, to catch it, obviously, but it's a nice play by him, and, you know, he wants to get out of this one for his pitcher and, you know, get back to the plate.
2-1 to Ransom. Ransom, ground ball near the gap. Good play by Hill. Side swiper to first, and they'll get out number 3, so the bases stay loaded for the Miller Express. But that doesn't really matter when you put up 6 in an inning. Sure, it would be nice, but they already proved their worth, and they now lead by 8 heading into the bottom of the 6th here in a game that could range to 4 hours today. James, let's talk a little bit about the All-Stars. And I guess we should start with the Mavs guys first, is obviously we are the Medisnap broadcast. Carter Roth returning to the game 2 years in a row. Not something that a whole lot of guys can pull off, but he's managed to do that. And then 4 other first-time All-Stars. Blake Dale, 3rd year in the league, first appearance. Same for Nate King, first appearance, 3rd year. Derek Archer and Tanner Hale, both rookie pitchers relative to the WCBL, and they make their firsts. Some good selections there for Medisnat, and some predictable ones as well.
For sure. Carter Roth, you know, the second he stepped onto the field this season for his second time with the Mavs, it screamed All-Star. You just kind of expected it, and he's reached that level for them. And, you know, Nate King led the league in batting average for, I would say, a good quarter of the season, Truman, or more, and, you know, has maybe come down from that a bit, but has been battling through some things as baseball players do, and is able to, you know, still put up a really good season here, his second with the Mavs, as you said. And Blake Dale, you know, has been a new player almost, I think, from the last couple of years. We've seen a little more consistency, finding hits more, still seeing the power in the fielding and a veteran presence. And then Derek Archer, the anchor, really, of this Mavs rotation from the top. He leads the way. He's an older guy. This is it. This is the last dance for him. And, you know, he's really working for that. And then Tanner Hale, out of the bullpen, has been reliable for Ryan Reed and his staff. He likes the big moment. Starter in college, has been able to be a reliever here and find his spot, whether that's 1-2 innings. We saw him come in for 5 in a game and hold on as the offense was able to chip away. So, you know, there was a couple other guys that could have went for the Mavs, only so many spots, and you know, those are 5 really good options to don the red and white.
And for the Miller Express as well, James, I'm not sure if you saw who they picked. I'm sure you'd be able to predict who they picked. 3 guys who are making their, I guess, back-to-back All-Star appearances. 3 guys that are making more than 2 appearances now. We mentioned Soto, 3 consecutive. Like, how impressive is that? William Edwards and Weston Walls both made it in 25. They'll be there in 26. And here's Blake Dale. He shifts this one over to right field, and it'll be foul. Strong hit there from the Mavs All-Star. And then pitching-wise, one of the most unique stat lines that I've seen is one from Jacob Glazner. He's got over 40 strikeouts this year. His walk numbers, I think he only has 9 walks, and his ERA is in the 7s. Those 3 things usually don't work together, but Glazner's a strike thrower, and he plants the ball in the zone. He's aggressive with it. Sometimes that can hurt the earned run average, but he really is a keeper and has become a starter after really relieving for most of last year. And then their new hitter, we talked about Chris Franks in his first year. What he's done tonight, obviously the home run most recently, but he's so impressive, and the luxury of having him, Edwards, and Soto to start a game, there's not many teams that have that grouping.
No, there's not. And, you know, Chris Franks was the top the RBIs for a majority of this season. He's still in the top 6. It is just, you know, those are 3 hitters that exemplify that Moose Jaw brand we talked about earlier, and, you know, they're relentless. And I don't know if how they're going to organize East Division lineup, but that'd be a good 3-pack to start the way, you know, in that game in Saskatoon.
Here's a ground ball over towards third base, taken by Eddie Signs, delivered to first, and on the other end, taking care of the ball and making the play is Garen Plummer. Last year, Moose Jaw had full control. Eric Marriott was the manager with Moose Jaw going to the finals. That's how it works usually. So it'll be this year Regina's manager and crew, Rai Pathakis and his bunch.
who will be kind of picking who starts, who comes in when. Of course, all managers are on the bench, so they can kind of talk amongst themselves. But, if Raipathakis wants to make a statement and wants to have the best lineup possible, you could go with those three. Carter Roth might have something to say about that. Brady Bai might have to say something about that. That's the name I was
thinking of.
And that's his guy, too, over in Regina. So I'm sure he wouldn't want to slight a guy like Bai.
Brady Bai would be a pretty good 3-hole hitter on that all-star roster.
He would be. It's an all-star roster. You can't really go wrong. Giacalone, ground ball, taking it over to first and running about himself is the new pitcher that we have in the game for the Miller Express. Yeah, and it is Jacob Keelays who comes in, was with the Miller Express in 24, year off in 25, excited to be back here in 26.
He wanted to put out himself there. He earned that ground ball. He wanted to carry it on and get the out, and he's very quickly here, worked to 2 outs as Carter Rowe steps to the plate.
And for Keelays, he's pitched lots here in the past. He's a very free spirit. If you go onto the Moose Jaw Miller Express Instagram, I swear he's in just about all their pregame videos, kind of leading the way. And when you have a veteran who can bring that spirit to your locker room and then outward into the community, I'm sure, one, he's got lots of fans in Moose Jaw, and two, he's a fun guy to be around. Here's Carter Roth with a single off of Keelays. So if Raipathakis and Regina are watching tonight, they do have an off day, and they're watching Carter Roth. They might be thinking, we could use him at the top of the lineup as well.
He squeaks that one past Keeley, past Ben Wolochuk right up the middle, and keeps this inning alive here for the Mavs. And I don't think there's a wrong spot to put Carter Roth in the order other than in the bottom half. He's a top half hitter and, wouldn't be a bad leadoff guy.
He started in Okotoks last year. There's a hit by pitch to Eric Calder as he takes first.
The only hope for the All-Star Game, Truman, this year, and it's a 2-day event, right? The game's going to be at 1 o'clock on this Sunday. No rain. No, don't shorten the game. We see sometimes that limits players can get in. Jeremy Freeman Jr. didn't get to go in the game last year for the Mavs, and, that was tough to see. And I think he enjoyed the experience overall, right? Getting to go and talking to guys and being around the league's best. Would have loved to play. And I'm interested to see, and I'm looking forward to just the 2-day event and how it's going to go, and I think it'll do a good job in Saskatoon.
Swing and a miss here is Volcano missing on the first pitch from Keelays. Yeah, always interesting to see who can stand out above the bunch because they're all really good players. And you see some guys on an everyday basis do it in the league. As both runners will move ahead here, the Mavs will have 2 in scoring position, 0-2 count to Volcano. But when you're amongst the best of the best, who can perform at that next level? We saw a guy that's going there this year in Callum Haney making a second appearance. He was the All-Star Game MVP in past years. Is that a guy that steps up? Saskatoon, they always have one of the top hitters in the game. Menard and Beck, the last 2 to be MVPs for them in the game. It's so interesting to see who could potentially be even good at the next level because that's what that game can provide sometimes too.
I agree, and if you look at just Saskatoon, I think Ethan Murdoch is a guy that could have a big game in that, trying to defend home turf and win it for the East Division. And, I wouldn't be shocked to see Carter Roth put up a good performance in that contest.
Keelays, the 0-2 to Volcano will miss. You mentioned Murdoch. He's been itching to get back there. He made the All-Star Game and Home Run Derby in 23 with the Swift Current 57s, and since then has not gotten back there. And he's put up numbers that would suggest he should get there. It's awesome to see him get the opportunity this year.
It is, and I think that's a testament the last 2 years of just how many players Saskatoon had that were all-star caliber, and, there's only so many spots. And when you have a guy like Carter Beck, there's a spot guaranteed, and, it slowly fills up from there.
Fouled off by Johnny Volcano. Count will be 1-2. Nathan Houston's batting .388 on their team this year. Former All-Star when he was with the Miller Express. He wasn't selected. That's how good some of these non-All-Stars are. Keelays back to the 1-2. Volcano swings, pops it up. Keelays points to the sky. Plummer gets called off. And Wolochek with a nifty little move there. He didn't want to have that in the glove for too long. Hot potato with himself as that is the 3rd out of our bottom of the 6th. And we drift on here to the 7th inning. Still lots of people in the crowd. And James, you mentioned All-Star Weekend. That's a chance for the crowd to fill up. Can remember being in Okotoks last year. What a delight. A packed house, even through all the rain.
It is, and, it's a great spectacle for the fans. And again, it is the 2-day. That'll be really interesting to see how that, whether fans go for both, go for just the game, be the Saturday, a bunt derby this year. The bunt competition, I think, is maybe a better way of saying it. That'll be fun to watch. And then you look at, the home run derby, the Little League home run derby before that, and then the big show on Sunday afternoon, which I like a little bit more in an afternoon. One, selfishly as a photographer, it's going to be good light the whole time, and two, it just it's daylight for everyone. There's no ride home after that, other than for players who play the next day. Fans can enjoy it, and it's a good weekend. Saskatoon's upgraded their ballpark this season, and they're primed for this event.
As someone who gets a lot more access than the typical person at a game like that, what has your sense been over the years to how the players enjoy it, how kind of the community has responded? What is your sense from kind of being right inside of a lot of that?
Just the community side more quickly. I haven't talked to many Okotoks fans the last couple of years it's been there, or, all the years it's been there, really since I started covering league in 2022. But they like it, right? They show up and they show out, and they're there right from the home run derby to the end of the game, whether it's rain or shine, and they seem to like that. And I don't think Saskatoon will be any different. For the players, a lot of them, one, they're honored to make it. They're happy to be there. They want to talk to the league's best. They want to see these guys that they compete against every day, and whether it's hitters just talking about this league and how they like it, how they compete, pitchers, maybe you can pick something up. I don't know how many, opposition wants to share tips with one another. I know a famous story in Major League Baseball is Mariano Rivera teaching Roy Halladay to cutter, and that didn't go over well with Yankee hitters. But I think it's for the guys. There's a lot of respect in this league, and they want to be amongst the league's best, and they get that chance to do that.
And Adam Volcano looks like he's going to move all the way over the long journey from right field to on the mound. A couple appearances for Volcano this season. If there was a who can do it all-star game, I think Adam Volcano would be the first selection, and probably a multiple-time selection over the years. A man of many traits, a man that can wear many hats.
If there was a game on the schedule that's late in the season, doesn't count for playoff standings, would love to see Adam Volcano try the 9-position, 9-inning, to dash through that. And I don't know what order you go in, whether you start on the mound, or you probably have to finish on the mound is how that game would go. But I think he's one of the few that could do it.
Didn't Will Ferrell do that? Is there a Netflix documentary? And he played for several different teams, too, I believe.
I believe so, yes. There's guys that have done that in this league, too. I believe its names are out of the mind right now. But, it's doable, and he's the one guy in the Mavs that I think could fulfill it.
Volcano, first pitch of the night, and he's not going to be too pleased with that one. His ducking away there at the plate was Ben Wallachek. It's almost a shame that a guy like Ben Wallachek may not be able to go into the bunt derby, because he would be a guy who is labeled for it, one of the best bunters in the league, even if he doesn't have to use it all the time.
And it's a skill, right? It's not, it's maybe not as sexy as the big fly, but it's hard to lay down a good bunt and to either move runners or to get on base. And Wallachek's one of the few who can.
We're getting late in the broadcast when the word sexy is brought up, but perfect description, James. That is the accurate way of describing what Wallachek can do.
I don't think bunts are loved enough, Truman. It's a part of baseball, and a well-placed bunt or well-timed bunt goes a long way.
1-2 here to Wallachek. Volcano. He's going to need to go to the dry cleaner after this. Can't even point out his number on his back anymore for any of those who are curious. Volcano does wear the number 2, but it's not looking like that right about now.
No, he's got that painted pretty good. The back of the jersey is pretty painted in clay.
If he can paint the strike zone like the back of his jersey, he'll be in good territory. Volcano. Hot hopper. Grudelar's using his face. It's interesting. Grudelar's leans over so much that sometimes, and we see that with a lot of catchers, but it does pop up right in the grills for him.
And I think that's just, maybe a bit of a smaller catcher getting down on it as he does, just laying out to block a pitch. It can bounce up pretty high.
Full count. Wallachek. Gripping tight. deflecting that one off. Soto pointing the other way, trying to direct the ball into a different spot, but he was not taking Soto's advice.
No, it was a pretty defensive swing there by Wallachek last minute just to get bat on ball there and, fend off what he thought was a strike.
I think even when the Miller Express lose, like, the games are still so fun because you get to watch those two. And they almost always seem to be on in one way because they can beat you so many ways. Referring to, of course, Wallachek and Soto, and Wallachek with the walk to first here. Now a chance for him to maybe steal, but late in the game, you never really know how aggressive you want to be as a manager. Now, Moose Jaw, they do not take the foot off the pedal, and I wouldn't be surprised for them to pull something like that, even in a game that is 8 runs in separation.
It's interesting how each team handles that, right? You don't want to run things up too much. There is also a mercy rule, so it's hard to punish a team, I would say, for lack of a better term, for trying to run up a score. And, it is also a competition that everyone's trying to win. So I don't know how much running it up really comes into that.
0-1 here. Volcano against Thomas Soto. Soto going back to the right side. We've seen him on both sides tonight, which is something, it stands out about Soto, but you hope that you get to see that within a game. Why not have a guy flip-flop in his at-bats and see how, if you can compare the two, at least from our vantage point. For Soto, I think he's just as good from both sides. I don't really know if there's a side that he's better from, at least throughout my years watching him.
There'd probably be a side that he would feel stronger at power-wise and maybe contact-wise, or maybe it's both. And that's, switch hitting's pretty special to see. And for the guys that can pull it off and pull it off well like Soto can, it's a treat to watch.
This one's sent over towards the left side and foul. Would you believe it? Soto hits both ways. He's such a fast runner. Would you believe that his dad was a pitcher?
It's usually how that works, right? Do you think the traits will carry on the side of the ball of the dad, and instead it's a completely different skill set for Thomas?
And I believe I'm saying his dad's name right, but Seth Soto was a relief pitcher. He was drafted in the 5th round in the 95 draft by the LA Dodgers. Ground ball over towards second, looking for 2, and that might be the only time in that pair's history that they have ground into a double play, or that a double play has come out of them both being there. Maybe fatigue coming on with how long this game has been, but the Mavs execute a double play against 2 of the league's fastest.
They turned that pretty quick, and it's a credit to the Mavs defense able to spin that as they were and quickly get 2 outs here in the 7th inning.
Should also give a shout out to his mom, Brandy, who came and visited last year. So that pair, obviously a big part in Soto's development, and, said that he just loves Moose Jaw, loves to be there, loves the community. And if it wasn't for Moose Jaw, he wouldn't keep coming up here. But that loyalty that comes from somewhere much larger, and you can only assume that the household he grew up in, very loyal.
That's a big part of that Moose Jaw brand we've talked about, right? They are able to keep guys, and the community loves them so much that they return. And, I keep bringing it back to, I think, every time the Millers play the Mavs, is Nate Mensick and how much he came back and, the impact he had, and, frankly, the impact the community had on him.
2 outs here, 1-1 count to William Edwards. Volcano roped that one in. It was high, but he brought it down at the last second. And there's some brotherly love, too, with the Moose Jaw Miller Express. You think about the Houston brothers who were there, and then, of course, Robert Gurney spent a season there when Austin was there, and each team has kind of a brother duo that will float in every other season, but Moose Jaw, more often than not, you'll see similar last names ending up on the roster card. Here's Jack Aloney. He'll take to first, and that will do it for the top of the 7th inning. If there was any stretching left to be done, this game has been a wild one. Fans hopping up and down in the early goings. I'm not sure if they're too exhausted to stretch, but that's the point that we're at in the game, James. And, for what started as a fun one, kind of I don't want to say sad, because that's too much of a gloomy way to put it, but a mysterious turn in some ways. I think fans, left head scratching to what happened to the Mavericks in this game, and what may have worked longevity-wise for the Millers, and why they have been able to just keep this thing riding smoothly.
Just a bit of a grind all around, and that's Moose Jaw grinding away, whether they got behind or had a lead early and then were able to grab it again just to get back in front. And then, for fans watching it, it's been a couple big innings here for the Millers.
As they get a new pitcher out on the mound, I think it is a good time. We've mentioned other stampedes and other events happening in other places. James, you're the Medicine Hat news guy. You know what's going on in this community almost better than anybody. We have a stampede coming up here very soon as well, which should be a fun event, and even a parade that happens to kind of kick it all off, which I hear the Mavericks will be in that.
I hear the same thing. Yeah, it's a great event. The Medicine Hat exhibition and stampede puts on every year. It's 4 days, of events at the Stampede grounds, and sometimes the Mavs are on the road and they don't get to experience it this year. It sounds like they will be able to, and it's just it's great for the community, and a lot of rodeo people. I wanted to say cowboys, but I couldn't think of another word. But it's the rodeo crew comes through, and it's just it's the pinnacle of the summer beyond the Mavs, right? Who are the boys of summer? It's a big event here in Medhatcher in the summer, kind of like it's 2 weeks removed from the Calgary Stampede, and it's Medicine Hat's own show.
And Nick Hill, he looks like he could ride a bull with the style he possesses out there, the long hair. You see that with a lot of bull riders and a lot of horse riders as well. And he took a ball for a long ride so far tonight. A home run into center field in his debut. 2 for 3 on the night for Nick Hill. Looks like a new pitcher potentially on the mound for the Miller Express.
No, I think it is still.
They're going back to Keelays again.
I think so.
They do have the big yellow numbers, which helps. And it is still Keelays on the mound for this inning. They do have a couple of bodies shuffling down in the bullpen area, but it could be Keelays the rest of the way with just how this game has gone. 0-2 count here to Nick Hill. The Bugs might be getting bad out there. I'm just watching every single player gesturing, swiping fiercely across their faces, and you can see Keelays doing that on the mound. We'll see if that impacts further. Hill all over that, but he pops it up backwards. Hill, an aggressive swinger. Keelays waiting for his arrival back in the batter's box, and we'll redo it at 0-2. Keelays high to Nick Hill. For a guy that swings so hard and that could just be a guy that's a power threat, it seems like the eye is right there too.
Yeah, that's a really good take for him. He's swinging there, fighting pitches off, and is able to sit back on the 5th pitch he sees and take a ball.
Takes another one. That one was really close. Tightrope walkers. That one right near the side of the plate, but called the ball.
You almost wonder, hitting 7th in the order tonight is Nick Hill, if he stays that low in the order as the season goes on.
Oh, a great play from Soto over at short, shuffling sideways and able to pick that ball up on the run, and he delivers the first out of this inning. Nick Hill moving well down to first, and you can see that he adjusted there. He went for more of a contact look. That was kind of the Carter Roth swing where you're slowing things down and matching ball to bat.
It's a 2-strike approach, right? You want to just get the ball in play and see if you can find a hole somewhere when you get behind in a count like that. And Hill's able to do that, not able to find a spot around Thomas Soto, and the first out here, the 7th.
Here's the Curacao native in Jaziel Grudelars. Curacao has seen a boom over the years in their baseball culture. You think about Ozzie Albies, how great he's been in the MLB this year, a multiple-time All-Star, and I'm sure lots of role models to watch growing up for Grudelars, growing up in Williamstead, which I think is where Ozzie Albies is actually from as well. So right at the heart of it is Grudelars. Keelays holds his glove tight to his body as he sends in and misses wide. Getting the strikes out of the way early has been the easy part for Keelays. Pop-up, Grudelars over towards Thomas Soto. He's going to have to fight with Eddie Saenz to take it, and Saenz gives it up to Soto.
Yeah, you let the shortstops kind of got control there, and especially a guy like Thomas Soto. I don't know if anyone gets to wave him off in Moose Jaw, and he's able to corral that one for the second out.
Adam Volcano on the mound batting. So he gets the full Ohtani experience today.
Already has a home run, pitches an inning. He's right up there with Shohei.
You know how sometimes your algorithm speaks to you? Well, I think my algorithm was foreshadowing this. I saw a clip of Kevin Gausman pitching for the Giants and then hitting. Apparently, Kevin Gausman had 10 hits in his one season with the Giants as a hitter. Of course, those rules have changed in the MLB, but trying to channel his inner Kevin Gausman tonight is Adam Volcano. Ground ball over to Soto. Missed it initially, but the throw down to first is in time, and it's good to go. Third out here in the seventh, a 1-2-3 inning for Quiles, who looks poised on the mound right now, getting up early in counts and getting weak contact. That's been the game plan for him, and he's worked it well.
For more than 40 years, we've been there, helping Canadians find the extra space they need to grow and to create new memories. Sentinel Storage. Buy Canadian, store Canadian.
Have you ever wondered if there's one thing that connects people from across our province? Something that connects the coffee shop to the spray park, or the brewery to the rodeo, the campground to the sports field. It's pretty amazing when you think about how it's all connected, because it truly is. And it's all we think about, so you don't have to.
Top of the eighth in a runaway game here for the Millers on the road. They look to keep pace with the Saskatoon Berries in the Eastern Division standings, and they're going to get a bit closer here. Still a couple games back, but this will help. Berries down so far tonight. Millers up by a big margin, and if second place was ever in doubt and the Mavericks were to creep back in, that door has been slammed, it seems, by Moose Jaw.
It's a hard spot for them to try to climb into second. I think they can, there's a chance they can do it. String some wins together as we see, come into this one with a 3-game win streak, the longest of the season, and they're going to need a little bit more of that if they look to climb the standings as the year goes on.
Now, as we mentioned, fortunately from a Mavericks side, the Weyburn Beavers are losing tonight, and that's the team who's hot on their tail in the standings. And the 3 wins, of course, in the 3-game series helps as well. But for Medicine Hat, they have not strung beyond a 3-game win streak, and their latest 3-game win streak is their longest one of the year. So it's disappointing in the sense that they weren't able to build off of what has been a good little run here.
And there's still chances in the bottom of the 8th, and if they can get to the 9th. But it is, steps forward and then a step back tonight. You wonder how they respond. You got 2 this weekend against Regina and the Red Sox, who are bottom of the East Division almost surprisingly, but a team that can still fight at times.
Chris Franks takes a strike. Franks spent his year and has spent the last 4 years, actually, you could say 5 with the red shirt in there, at Ashland University. So teammates with Nate King coming into tonight. And he's, over his time there, has led the team at home runs twice and RBIs once. So if that doesn't say, hey, I can hit, I don't know what does. Volcano low into the dirt, and it is a walk here to Franks, despite what the score clock may have suggested at 2-2. Franks to first. Eddie Signs to the plate. It is interesting that Michael Gonzalez, and I'm not sure who's available on the bench, how many guys are around, obviously the injuries, but that Michael Gonzalez hasn't brought some of their pinch hitters in, or guys who don't see as much time. I would only guess the lack of availability is the answer.
Yeah, ride your guys. Maybe don't change too much. It's working for them. I'm sure maybe this is their best defense as well. And when you have a lead like this, you keep those guys and try to hold on to it.
Well, one count to Eddie Signs, who there's not a lot of Miller Express batters who have had bad nights, but Eddie Signs has been all over the baseball. He's been seeing it well, and this is what we kind of expected with his return to the Miller Express. 2 RBIs and a hit and a run in this game, but feels like he's done a lot more than that throughout this game. Despite the 2 strikeouts, I've really liked his approach at the plate.
Yeah, a double and a home run from Signs. He's been a big part, as a lot of the lineup has, as you said, for this big lead for the Millers.
Volcano back out to the mound. People might say, do you feel for a position player coming into this game where, they have to get on the mound and pitch in a game that, you don't really feel is worth anything at this point? I think it's the opposite for Volcano. He just likes a chance to get out and throw.
I think he just likes playing baseball, and this is another chance, to play more and to be a bigger part of the game.
There's a strike to Signs. It'll be a 1-2 count. This is the most, I think, that a position player in recent years has gotten into pitch. We joked about the Phillips and, the Vanesti short outings, but for Volcano, he's a legitimate piece of their bullpen now. He's a guy they can call on.
Yeah, especially in games like this, where maybe things are out of hand. You want to save some arms, and I think it can go either way. If they had a bit of a lead and you wanted to save some pitches, you throw Adam Volcano in, and we've seen him start games as well. Really, Truman, the only guy I've seen in a Mavs uniform that has gone as much from position player and pitcher as Nate Ewing was in 2022, and he was an infielder that went closer at times throughout that season. But beyond that, Volcano surely leading the way.
2-2 count to Signs. No outs in the inning so far for the Mavericks. Guy over on second for the Miller Express. That ball got away from Volcano. Not sure what he was trying to throw there, but it didn't end up being such.
Looked like he just got a little behind an off-speed pitch and sailed a little bit high as he tries to get back in here with the full count.
Signs. Tap of the hat. He'll move back in now, staring down Volcano. Volcano steps off, looks back to second, fakes the throw. Signs. Few taps of the plate. Here's the full count pitch from Volcano, and he gets Signs looking. So despite the good night for Signs, 3 strikeouts in this game, and that comes on the heels of what he did last night in the Trans-Canada Clash against the Regina Red Sox, a 2-run go-ahead single in that game, which ended up giving them the win. And so I'm sure he's not disappointed with what he's done over the last 2 games, but always, ball players, they're looking for more. They're looking for a level that seems unreachable at times.
Yeah, you don't really want to, all the success kind of maybe gets outweighed at times by strikeouts, but, still a good night and a good couple strike games here, as you said, for Suarez.
And a slip by Hill, guns it to first. A backhand flip by Giacalone for out number 2. And that's one where you just throw out the broom and you see what you can collect. And Giacalone got everything there.
He does, and credits Chris Franks, takes third on that. He sees that Hill has to get the throw off quick, and Giacalone's going to have to reach for it, and he's able to scamper on into third. And there's 2 outs now, but a runner can score on a wild pitch.
Well, luckily it's not nickname day out there, or we would have had to call Frankie going to third and Frankie going to first in the dugout. Chris Franks primarily going by Frankie, of course, as many ball players are. Several interesting nicknames with interesting backstories to counteract. Ooh, Gary Swan had to switch out of the way there. That one near his arm. Nobody warming up behind Adam Volcano. There is a pitcher warming up in the Miller Express dugout, so we'll see if they give Keelays the bottom half and then go to the bullpen after that, or if it's a 2-inning swap. Catch is going to be made out in right field for whoever's checked in there for the Mavericks. We didn't get an official announcement to who came into the game, but the play is made regardless, and that will do it for the top of the 8th inning. We'll get to the midway point here on Flow Sports, and for the Millers, mentioned some of their all-stars this year. Let's take a quick look in the intermission here at who has gone to the big game the most that is still currently active. Connor Croson, 4 times. There almost should be a reward for being a 4-time all-star. In my time in the league, I've only seen 2 guys do that. The other was Logan Grant, made 1 with Swift, 3 with Okotoks. Croson has joined that club that his former teammate was in. Ryan Doffney, not an all-star this year, had a chance to get to that. A late arrival in Weyburn, 3 times for him, 3 times for Soto, as we mentioned. Brody Forno, who's the man on the right of our graphic, he pitched in 2 in Okotoks, and as a hometown guy, that's so much more special. Weston Walls, the ace for the Miller Express, will make his 2nd this year, and Carter Roth making his 2nd for the Mavericks. There's plenty of guys in that 2 club. I could go down a list for hours, but I'm sure you don't want to hear about it. So a couple highlighted in this game and a couple who've just left their mark throughout the years.
For sure. And I think Croson's big award is, the 2 championships he would have in Okotoks. I believe he was only been a part of the 2.
2 or the 3? Because they three-peated, didn't they?
They did three-peat. I wasn't sure if he was around for all 3.
I think he was a part of the three-peat. He hit the walk-off winner in the one. That was against Moose Jaw. Sorry to bring up those old memories for Miller Express fans, but I think it was the first time in the WCBL where a walk-off home run has won the title. He won the playoffs MVP and then also the Canadian MVP last year. So lots of accolades for Connor Croson, who's done it for a long time.
And been, real special, as you mentioned, everything that he's won for this league, and a good ambassador for the WCBL amongst Canadian players.
Yeah, and a local guy in Okotoks too, just like Forno. You want to see the local guys succeed because you know that they're going to come back and keep playing, and kind of that core that Okotoks has built over the years has continued to return. Just similar to Evan Morrison here, his 3rd year with the Mavs as a hometown guy, and I'm sure he hopes, just like the Crolls and the Crosons and the Ricky Sanchez, Brody Forno, that he has kind of a group of bandits that keep coming back for Medicine Hat alongside him.
For sure, and it builds legends, right? It's a thing of legends in a city of, pillars of a franchise, and as you mentioned with Okotoks, those guys, and that leaves a legacy that they can put on walls or pass on that to play like those players did in the past.
Still, it looks like we have gone to a new pitcher here for the Miller Express. Wanted to get confirmation on the turnaround. And so Keelays' day is done. A solid appearance for him working the last 2 innings, and it's Jake Hicks from Louisville, Kentucky, who's into the game. Morrison will pause up. It's funny, you bring up the legacy thing. Every time the Moose Jaw Miller Express kind of put their advertisement out for season tickets, come get your season tickets, to this day they still have one of the best relievers in their franchise's history, Reese Helland, on all of those ads. You talk about something carrying over, even a guy that's maybe not from a town, he becomes adopted by them. And that's what's really cool about our league, is guys that you may not have heard of a couple months prior may become somebody who are near and dear to your heart in your communities. And I know Blake Dale has sure done that for Medicine Hat, a adopted son of the North here. Here's Hicks. Almost seems like he's relaxing back into the recliner when he delivers. Not sure how you stay on balance on the mound doing something like that. There's got to be a lot of balance involved. Dale shutters that one off, and as it goes into the netting and down by the Miller Express dugout. Weston Wall's doing ball boy duty down there.
He can do it. What can he do?
Oh, honestly, I don't know at this point. He's next level. Hicks. Swing and a foul off there from Blake Dale. I guess start the All-Star game would be the only thing. Ian Heck got the call last year. It was Weston Walls who came in after. I don't think there's a debate for who should start this year. I think it has to be Weston Walls, at least in my eyes.
I think so. I think that's a good call, and a guy that's been in the league for a while, and a veteran presence to start off a game like that.
That's the thing, that he's a returner for me. That stands out the most. Kagan Baker's put up quite the year. Michael Saul, of course, he's the Saskatoon guy, so he might have a little leverage. But, Weston Walls, it's a lot more than just a one-year thing. He has become a mainstay for the Miller Express and a mainstay in what a top pitcher looks like in the league. Hicks fouled off again by Dale as this count remains frozen at 2-2.
You just hope that wherever his starts on the calendar line up with the All-Star game that he can go, and sometimes that's the only slight with starters at the All-Star game is that they can't pitch at all, but they still get to take in the experience and enjoy the honors.
Hicks, a swing and a miss from Dale as that's out number 2 here in the bottom of the 8th. And the good part is that extra break that you mentioned this year, the extra day, that might kind of add a little bit more room, a little bit more leeway for some of these teams to be able to allow their pitchers to go. And that's good. You want to see the top talent on display. I remember Regina, none of their 3 pitchers got to go last year. A couple guys leaving and a couple guys just with how their schedule was sorted out didn't get to throw. And that's a whole team, a huge void that's left when you don't get to experience what Regina's pitching was all about last year. Frankie Giacalone will swing and miss at the first pitch here.
I also like, as you mentioned, the 2-day All-Star game, for players not going. That's a 2-day break in what is a sprint of a summer, and, they get to sit back, relax, and, get ready for what is a playoff push after that.
Yeah, it might not be enough time to go down to Cancun, as every athlete seems to do these days, but, a short trip to Red Deer. Maybe if you're a Saskatchewan person, you make the quick jaunt out to Manitoba. Those are possible destinations. I'm not saying the most appealing, but they could be vacation places to somebody.
There are nice beaches around Medhat too. Maybe at you see Mavs go to. Banff is another good option of an Alberta tourist spot.
Don't get me started about Jasper. If you're a golfer, Jasper's the spot. 1-2 count. Hicks, Giacalone shovels this one over into right center. The play is made by Wallachek. That'll be out 3 here in the 8th. And we will continue when we get back here. The Mavs still behind by 8. Seems like the score clock hasn't really moved for a while, but we've shared many great memories and stories, and I'm sure this will be a memorable evening for the Miller Express, who have done everything right so far, and anyone who comes out of their bullpen seems to strike gold. Jake Hicks, the latest. Well, we found the ninth. I'm sure the Millers are really happy that we finally found the ninth because they felt, I'm sure, for a majority of this game, really since the halfway point, that they've had this under control. And they return here, position player on the mound, and Adam Volcano for the Mavs. And they are just looking for the time to wind down, get back on the bus, and think about tomorrow. Here's a shot over towards left field, and it's going to be caught by Blake Dale over there. There have been some substitutions in the outfield. Didn't get in official notice to who checked in over in right. It's a long ways out there, and late night, the eyes aren't working as well as they usually do. I'm sure everybody was just pushed over to a new spot. And when you get late into these games, different players playing different positions. It looks like a new player is going to check in here for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. It's Evan Spiragianis who comes into the game. Spiragianis' first plate appearance of the night. He'll take a strike. Not his first plate appearance at Athletic Park this year. In the prior couple of games that these two played, a 3-game set in which the Millers won 2-1, Spiragianis was a factor in that series. Mainly a guy that works behind the plate. Spiragianis from Laval, Quebec. Volcano. Spiragianis tattoos this one over near center field, all the way back to the wall, and the catch is made. Wow! What a play by Evan Morrison as he ran into the back wall, and I believe he came down with that. Him and Blake Dale both running as fast as they could to get to that spot. It was a familiar place, similar to where Caden Ransom hit it prior in this game. And at least that's a feel-good way to come out of the night defensively for the Mavs. I was waiting for the crowd's applause, and with the bright lights out there, you just never know if an outfielder's going to lose it in the lights or, yeah, if the ball actually came down from that area and where it ended up. But Evan Morrison had it in his glove for out number 2. Swing and a miss here is Volcano throwing a strike into the zone. Talking about Laval, Quebec, prior with Evan Spiragianis at the plate. They're home of the, of course, Laval Rocket, the hockey team. Ball will bounce in the dirt. The Rocket, a very interesting history. They're one of the few teams who've played in actually the AHL and in junior hockey in the QMJHL. That, of course, the junior league over there. In Alberta here, we have the WHL. There's 3 major leagues. Here's Adam Volcano. Strike will hit there. Volcano played lots of his baseball in Vauxhall, which is near Lethbridge, and they have one of those teams in the CHL league, in the Lethbridge Hurricanes. Medicine Hat Tigers, of course, a part of that grouping. But you're here to watch baseball. Enough about hockey. Volcano. Oh. Well, I'll say this much. A shoulder pad would have helped out on that one. He's off to first base, and I believe that's not the first time he's been hit by a pitch in this game, is Ben Wallachek. Thomas Soto, a baton twirl of the bat, and he'll head over to the batter's box. So many different contrasts between these hometowns and kind of what the big events are happening around there, but sports is always a key one. If you have a local sporting team, the fans there, they seem to worship the team, and there's always something sweet about having a team or a big stadium or a place where people can come to celebrate something, much larger themselves. It's obviously related to community. And me and James Tubbs spoke about the All-Star Game lots tonight. That's another way that something like that can happen and even pull people from out of town. For the Mavs, they'll be staying right here. They have a day off tomorrow, as James Tubb had mentioned, and then a couple of games with the Regina Red Sox that become much bigger now with the loss tonight, and Regina having an off day today. Both those teams in the playoff running still. Soto, ground ball. Roth lost it, got it back over to first in time. That'll be out number 3 here in the top of the 9th. Some good work on the mound today again from Adam Volcano as he gets a tap on the shoulder from Frankie Giacalone, and a much-deserved tap. Glove tap there from his brother as well, as that'll be the last time, barring one of the craziest comebacks ever, that we see Adam Volcano on the mound tonight. A couple of guys throughout the year that have fared well on the mound for both teams. We'll finish up tonight with our player head-to-head. Cody Myers had to talk about his performance in Weyburn. I know it's not directly related to this game, but he pitched a no-hitter into the 5th inning. That's not easy to do in the WCBL, and Cody's been rolling ever since he got here. We watched a lot of lefties tonight. The lone lefty that didn't get into this game was Myers, normally used in a starter's role, a 363 ERA rather, with 21 Ks, just over 22 innings pitched. And then we mentioned Jacob Glazner throughout tonight's broadcast as well, and his emergence. The ERA may be high, but now 51 strikeouts in 41 innings and a low walk total. These are two pitchers that come playoff time, if these two happen to match up or they play another opponent in the Eastern Division, I would expect to see both of those guys factor into the series in high leverage moments, whether that's in a starter's role or even bringing a pitcher out of the bullpen, which we mentioned tonight, has become more of the thing that we've seen in the WCBL. These strict starts that we're used to seeing in the MLB, they're not applicable in summer ball. Guys can be used in so many different roles, and they can kind of expand their repertoire and figure out what kind of pitcher or position player they might be when they go back to college and even further than that. Carter Roth. For him, the figuring out wasn't really about his game. I think it was the people, teams around him and places looking for ball players figuring out how good he was. Somebody landed on a gem, obviously Medicine Hat doing part in that as he deflects off the first pitch. But for a former fast pitch player, somebody saw that he had a knack to play baseball, and the transition probably wasn't the easiest at the start, but he makes it look really easy now. And I think I speak for coaches everywhere when I say he makes the job as a coach very easy, and Ryan Reed has talked about that. David Dell has talked about how unbelievable his timing is at the plate, and that it's just something you cannot teach. You either have an eye like that or you don't, and the eye that Roth has is very rare. Hicks misses outside. Roth will wait a little bit longer, now at 1-2. So with Roth heading to the All-Star game, he won't get the 2-day break that many of his teammates will. But Saskatoon, a beautiful city. I'm sure a place that Roth will enjoy. Here's a single into center field for Carter Roth, and his decent night at the plate continues here with a single. The Mavs will put one on in the bottom of the ninth. As far as Moose Jaw goes, their schedule coming up. Excuse me, apologies. Just got something caught up in the mic here, but Moose Jaw's schedule coming up is similar to the Mavs in some ways, not in the way that they have all these home games kind of banked into one, but in the game that there's going to be a lot of playing going on. They'll be in Brooks tomorrow at Elk Field, and then the day after in Lethbridge at Spitz Stadium, and then Saturday at Spitz Stadium as well, Elk Field again, to round out kind of the trip around Alberta, and that's a lot of games in a short amount of time. But for a team that's gelling and looking to make it 3 straight wins tonight against the Mavs, this is the time when going on a road trip is not the worst thing. If you can breeze along and keep that consistency going, pick up another couple of wins against some cross-divisional opponents, then you sit pretty going into the end of summer and into August when the playoffs approach. Throw back to Roth at first. It's an 0-2 count at the plate to Luke Gigliotti, one of the newest members of the Mavericks, a Toronto, Ontario native. Gigliotti, a swing and a miss, and he's still searching for his first hit with the Mavs as he strikes out here. Gigliotti played his first game in Lethbridge, no success there, and then he's been in and out of the lineup, used in a pinch running role since. His first appearance at home tonight. Not a lot of fans in the crowd still left here, so hopefully Gigliotti will get a proper introduction when he returns and runs out as a starter onto the field, usually with a baseball buddy to begin the night. It's a tradition here with the Mavs, running out with a youth baseball team within the city. And Johnny Volcano has done a lot of that throughout the years and has really began to love Medicine Hat. I don't think he ever hated it. Of course, his career began in Lethbridge. He played with his brother Liam Volcano there for 1 year, and now he closes out this chapter here with the Mavs, playing with his brother Adam, and it's far from over. Still lots to be done here for Volcano, who chases that elusive WCBL championship. 2-1 to Volcano. Gary Swan continues to be behind the plate in this game, even with Evan Spirianis coming in. Pitch low to Swan, and he's done an exceptional job back there tonight. We've talked about it throughout the game, but he's had to work with a lot of different pitchers, and now out there with Jake Hicks. No Nathan Pichot used tonight for the Moose Jaw Miller Express. If the game was closer, I think he's a guy that the Millers would have had up. Volcano is going to shoot this one all the way over into right field, and it's gone! Johnny Volcano, a 2-run home run, and the Mavs have a little bit of life here as they touch double digits and make this a 6-run ball game in the bottom of the 9th. It's never too late for home runs, and for Volcano, who's had another good night tonight at the plate, he finishes it off in style, and that's Johnny Volcano's game. Swaggy, stylish. He's got kind of a finesse to his game that works really, really well, and he was able to fleece that home run over the fence and out. Volcano, his night finishes with 2s across the board, 2 hits, 2 RBIs, a walk, and 2 runs and 4 at-bats. Really good stat line for the Mavs vet. Here comes Nick Hill. Pair of hits tonight for Hill. Of course, the home run and a single in his first at-bat of the evening. Hicks steps forward, a swing and a miss. Holding his pose was Hill. Mentioned I was going to talk about the Miller Express pitchers used tonight. Feels like they've used a dozen. Only 4 guys getting into the game, and each guy pitching around the 1 to 2 inning mark. Nobody going for more than 3. Hill will strut a pose again there and foul that off. Weston Walls, he's been all over ball boy duty, and I mean, I don't know if they're paying the ball boy down there, but he's getting a pretty easy paycheck tonight with all the help that Walls has given him. A chance to sit back and watch the game. Hill's going to poke this one towards Wallachek, and he lunges out to make the grab. So the Mavs down to their final out. It'll be Jaziel Grudelars. So the debut from Nick Hill finishes with 2 hits on the evening. Grudelars, a switch hitter, and we've seen him primarily bat left throughout this season. But tonight's been a different story. He's utilized that right-hand side, and he hasn't moved away from it. Grudelars, a chopper. Over towards Plummer, flips to first, hits the tap, and that will do it. The Miller Express come to a place where they've won in the past and now win for the 3rd time this year at Athletic Park. 16-10 the final score is they snap the Mavs win streak. It will end at 3, and they put together a win streak of their own at 3. Now they will head out on the road to explore Alberta. Of course, mentioned before, they'll play the Brooks Bombers and the Lethbridge Bulls in all 4 of their next 4 games. For the Mavs, an off day tomorrow, couple against Regina coming up where they will look to get back on the sunny side of things, as it was a beautiful bright night here in Medicine Hat. The dark sky has creeped in, and much darker for the Mavs, who do not end up with a win on their hands. But for those in black and yellow, the Millers, they deliver what they usually do. A lot of speed, a lot of wacky hits, good pitching, opportunities to fill up the zone, taking advantage of those opportunities, and putting it all together for one big win. That will do it from Athletic Park tonight. My name is Truman Bartman. We'll be back with you soon, on Friday to be exact, as the Red Sox come into town to play the Mavs, and we'll have it for you right here on Flow Sports. As always, it's a pleasure talking baseball. It's a pleasure watching baseball, and it was a pleasure to tune into this one tonight. A tight-knit game for a majority of the way, and the Millers pulling it out in the very end. We'll see you on Friday, everyone. Take care.